A voice asked someone if they were bored. They replied that they were. The voice again asked if there had been a trending pastime lately and if the person had heard of it. The other voice replied that they had not been outside for a long time, so they were oblivious to trends. The voice said that they didn't have any need to go around after their ceasefire with heaven. They replied that it was truly displeasing and that the battle itself was the reason for their existence. The pastime the voice spoke about was exactly that battle. At the demon supreme leader Lation's hall, a figure sitting on the throne asked a demon if they were finished with the preparations. The demon replied that they were and that they could be carried out at any time. The demon on the throne asked about Alterius's answer, to which the other demon replied that he hoped they had a good time. The demon on the throne asked to commence the battle. The other demon vanished and spawned in the presence of a human holding a sword, who said that he was the only one left. The demon praised the human for being able to come this far for his kind. The human taunted the demon and said that a certain bastard would get a little anxious if he were to kill the demon there. The demon got furious and screamed blasphemy, vowing to erase that impudent mouth of his without leaving a single trace. The demon attacked. The human dodged it, but the demon had a follow-up attack which was cancelled out by the human's counter. The human and the demon's swords clashed, and the human's sword started cracking the demon's sword. The demon said that it was unbelievable how a human could possess that much power and burst with energy, forcing the human to take a few steps back. The human asked the demon why they made them do those things. The demon replied that he had no reason to use lowly humans, and power defied logic itself, and the will of the one was absolute, so they simply needed to accept and follow along. The human cut the demon's arm in a flash, and said that it was all a waste of time, and the demon should perish. The demon realized that he wasn't a match for him from the start, and asked how the human acquired that much power. The human struck again with a fatal blow, damaging the demon, and asked what it was to him, as he was the one who told him to accept it as it was. The demon, lying on the floor, badly wounded, said that it was true and he didn't need to know, and even the human wouldn't be a match for that one. The human, before laying the final blow, thanked the demon for the trivial warning and told him to go to hell. The human grabbed a crystal on the demon's chest, which increased his status. The human asked what the demon said about logic to himself, and said that he would shove that nonsense back into his mouth, and he would kill the demon's supreme leader. Amidst a field bathed in the light of the setting sun, a goblin stood, breathing heavily and badly wounded. The human from the demon battle named Cha Muyuk struck down the goblin with a knife, killing it. Cha sat down on a rock, smoking, and asked himself if it had already been 4 months since he came there, and he had already gotten used to the ugly sky. He heard something from the nearby bushes and asked who was there. A rock came flying at him, cutting him right below the eye. Cha demanded to know where it came from. It was another person who asked Cha if it was him, and he thought it was another monster and apologized. Cha asked the man what he was doing there, and he replied if he couldn't hunt there. The man said they had not seen each other for a while, but Cha's eyes were sharp and he might have bled. Cha said that he was the one bleeding and asked if he'd done that on purpose. The man said that of course it was a mistake and asked Cha if he was still only hunting goblins, and just by his appearance he was really struggling. Cha lit another cigarette and said that he shouldn't worry about it. And like the man said, he was way past hunting goblins, yet he was there, and it seemed like he was not even trying to lie about it. The man grabbed the cigarette from Cha's mouth and punched him in the face.
Do you want to know the name of this manga, along with all the manga names of the recaps we did in our channel? How about also the chapter numbers our recaps end? You can simply ask the names in our Discord community for free or become a donor to get them all in one place. You can either be a donor in Patreon or be a member in our YouTube channel. Just scan this QR code or go to the link in the description to become a donor. Moreover, becoming a donor automatically makes you a VIP member of our Discord server with over tens of thousands of members.
Grappling him by the collar and said, "How dare Cha smoked in front of your hungnam? It took me so long to quit, and here he was spreading the smell everywhere." The man asked Cha if a goblin hunter really had the luxury to smoke, and if he was not crazy, then he should put it out. It was sincere advice from him, so Cha should be careful. Cha sarcastically said that if he had bought the cigarette from the man, he would do as he pleased. The man punched Cha in the guts and said that he had a bad feeling about him since they met, and how rude it was for Cha to talk back to him. He continued about Cha's arrogant face, and all he could do was talk, coming from a weak person, and there was nothing about Cha he liked. The man lifted Cha by the collar and carried him to scold him, reminding him how he treated him well once, and it seemed like Cha had forgotten what kind of person Bei Youngchul the man was. Youngchul slapped Cha and told him that from now on, he shouldn't just blabber on however he wanted, and not forget about the kind of person Youngchul was. Youngchul unhandled Cha and said that he'd only do this much today, so he better be careful, and if Cha saw him again, then he should show a little respect, just like he always had. Youngchul left, leaving Cha on the ground. Cha got up, but he was hurt, and he wondered how young Chul could quit smoking acting like that. Cha thought that it was getting late, and he should do what he had to before it got any darker. Cha started talking to the unconscious goblin on the ground and asked him if it was looking down at him too. He said that he was not like this, but his thug nature had been coming out, and he should have acted like this back when he got involved with the gang. Cha paused and wondered what he was saying and stabbed the goblin again to make sure it was over. 6 eyes and teeth, Cha had what he needed to sell. In that place, one was able to sell specific parts of the monsters they had hunted in order to earn points. There were many ways to use points, and they were even more important than money. In that sense, goblins were the worst. Only their eyes and teeth were sellable, and only for a small amount. Catching them was also harder than expected and not very cost-effective, but Cha was always wrestling with them, and it was always hard. Even so, the reason he was working in that ward was that goblins were the only monsters in that area, and even then, they only appeared by chance. Cha tore the heart of the goblin out, and in it was a green ball. It was called the core of the heart. The effect of the core was simple. It increased the status. Cha ate it, and no matter how many times he did, he couldn't get used to the taste and smell. The goblin's core was absorbed, and Cha's strength was permanently increased by a small amount, though it was hard to immediately feel the effects. The world had a similar structure to that of a game, as a world where factors like status and skill existed. It was not easy to grow like it was in a game. The methods were restrictive and the obstacles were severe, but luckily, Cha had the opportunity to learn a method of growing with minimal effort. He was going to get stronger fighting and devouring, and was going to escape that place, and then someday, he was going to get revenge on the one who threw him there. Cha figured that he should get rid of the corpse. Even if it was annoying, it was better to clear the corpse that could become the answer to his growth. At first, he thought that it was impossible, but then he'd gotten used to doing all that. Cha made it home just in time for the night. Cha announced to his teacher that he had arrived and apologized for being late, since it took him longer than he thought. Cha looked around and saw his teacher lying on the ground with a pale face. Cha got on the ground with tears in his eyes and started shaking the teacher, and he kept asking if he was all right. The teacher opened his eyes and Cha hugged him in relief and said he thought something had happened to him. The teacher headbutted Cha and said that he was too loud, and why would he think someone who was sound asleep was dead? Cha said that it looked that way to him. The teacher said that he was starving and they should eat. Cha carried the teacher to the table. Cha apologized for the same menu, and he said that he would try to make him something nicer next time. The teacher said that it was fine, and he was not starving to death at least. Cha fed the teacher with his hand since the teacher was missing both his arms. Cha asked the teacher to slow down, or he would get indigestion. The teacher said the sooner he ate, the faster Cha would get to eat. They both lit a cigarette, and the teacher said to Cha that he was stubborn too, and he could have just tossed him in the forest. Instead, he was working so hard to feed him. Cha said that the teacher was the stubborn one, and why was he saying all this after a good meal, and if he wanted seconds? The teacher asked if Cha had found any cores, to which he said he had. The teacher asked if he was caught, to which Cha said he didn't, and he consumed it as soon as he found it and took care of the corpse too. The teacher advised him to never get caught, and this was a method only the two of them knew about. Cha said that he would bear that in mind, and come to think of it, he saw the tyrant sword Lee Seojun in the middle of the village that morning. The teacher was surprised, and that only meant that Lee Seojun seemed to have returned after a visit to the eternally sleeping forest. Cha heard some gossips about Lee in the crowd about him who climbed his way into the top 300 ranks within 8 years of landing in Leishan. And one could just tell by looking at him that he was strong, and the thing around his waist was the Karakovan's head and heart, and selling those two items could get him at least 2 million points. The crowd continued and said that he was a high ranker like Lee was in Maudi. Someone replied that one would have to pass through Maudi to get to the eternally sleeping forest, and he was sure that Lee was here to sell his trophies after the hunt. The eternally sleeping forest. It was a hunting ground that Cha couldn't even dream of entering given his current level. He would die immediately if he was not that strong. Cha had almost forgotten. Points were points, but he heard from the teacher that those monsters had cores, and if he were to consume those, Cha was tempted. The teacher said that the stronger they were, the higher they could be sold for. The teacher said Lee was incredible for slaying it, but carrying his trophies around like that was a display that eats away one's dignity. The teacher came back to Cha's point of being tempted, and told him that he should just stick to goblins for now since he had a long way to go. The teacher said that Cha would eventually get stronger, so he should survive and head to the big city. The teacher motivated Cha that if he could get that far, then leaving the current place would no longer be a pipe dream, and if that happened, the teacher would love Cha to pay his mother a visit. Cha said that he would get out of there with him no matter what, and they should go see the teacher's mother together. The teacher smirked and then laughed and told Cha to grow stronger and help him out. Those who were dragged out there usually settled down in those regions. The monthly rent for a hut like that was an absurd 8,000 points. Cha left the house the next morning and wondered if he should pay the rent before he headed out to hunt. He was angry that he had to worry about all this even though he was in hell. He would get kicked out and become a street rat if it was overdue. Things were usually better when one would get closer to the center of the village. One day, Cha headed to the big city with his teacher. The Maori village had a great square central tower hall, a grand tower compared to the tiny size of the village. Cha was sure the person who kidnapped the people did that intentionally, and they were making a show of their absolute power. No matter how many times Cha came there, he felt strange and uneasy. Cha wondered why no one was there while a figure appeared behind him, scared Cha. They laughed and said that it worked better than they thought, and it was really fun. They wanted to see if Cha had any other facial expressions, and that was quite the spirited reaction. Cha said that they should treat those who visited them for business seriously. The figure was the Maori village general administrator, a demon named Krusta, and asked Cha what he wanted from them. Krusta snapped their fingers and a mark appeared before Cha. The mark was a symbol on top of the heart for humans who had been dragged to halation. The function of it was a storage for points and a cause for numerous conflicts. Cha thought that all of the points he worked so hard to gather with those goblin eyeballs were going to be used up for rent, although he did get to consume a lot of cores. Krusta asked if they could help Cha with anything else, and if not, then he should leave since they did not want to see his face any longer. Cha said that he would be back to buy some booze later. Krusta taunted Cha about getting wasted and not working hard and forgetting about everything. Cha left wondering to himself that they would laugh all they wanted, and he may be weak, but little by little, he would get stronger as he consumed monsters. On his way, Cha spotted another goblin and charged at it, acquiring another core for himself. Cha told himself that he had a good feeling about the day. Consuming cores was a secret growth method, but its rate was slow. According to his teacher, the growth rate of those who had the support of their clan and family was precisely 0.6 per day. Per each goblin core, each category of growth was only 0.02. The teacher said that was just average. If it was a promising human, then it would be around 0.8. The teacher continued his conversation with Cha and reminded him as he knew the growth rate of humans with inhalation was displayed as a number through their mark, like a game status, though the teacher didn't know the fundamentals behind it. The starter categories were strength, stamina, agility, and endurance. These were additional categories that could be added, but these were the 4 basics. Each category was graded starting from 7, with 1 being the highest. And there were precise numerical values that existed in percentages per rank. When one would get to 100% in rank 7, they could level up to rank 6. Everyone started out at rank 7, but the problem was the precise numerical value. Depending on one's physical ability, it was distributed from the start. It was usually around 4, but in Cha's case, it was below average at 2 to 3. The people who were dragged to halation naturally created a group. Clans, guilds, and family. The names might differ, but the cause to get together was survival. As time passed, the number of people drastically increased and became a society. There were more groups and the competition grew fierce, and the weak were thrown away in the process. Before Cha died alone without being scouted, he met his teacher. They met at the worst point in Cha's life, but he did think it was lucky that they met. The teacher asked Cha for a smoke and continued that the unfair part of all this was that Cha had to buy growth potions to increase his regular stats. It was not based on experience when he hunted monsters. It was a messed up system, and there was no worse game than this. Of course, that wasn't taking into consideration all of the swordsmanship, battling techniques, and the personal skills, but that was the basics of it. The teacher reassured Cha about a different method, so he brought up a conclusion. Amongst the steep competition between all of the clans, Cha won't even get close to a hunting ground. For him to increase his growth rate with only goblin cores was not sufficient, as he would need at least 50 goblins a day, and that was how he could even get a foot on the starting line. The first pressing concern was the forced hunt. As a settler in halation like Cha, there was a special task he was forced to contribute on a monthly basis. It was a dangerous task, and quite rewarding, but the death rate was much higher. The monsters, as well as the 40 settlers from round 13 who would be assembled, were all dangerous. It was the humans who were much more dangerous. If Cha was to survive in that mayhem, he needed to keep hunting much more than before. Cha decided to take a break amongst his goblin hunt before he found the cores. It had been 3 weeks since he had started working excessively. He thought he couldn't do it in the beginning, but he'd gotten accustomed to it over time, and he managed to collect quite a few cores and points. He could purchase the items his teacher would need during the forced hunt, and even get a better weapon. Cha had become pretty attached to his current weapon, but was nearly at its limit. Since it would be rough if it were to break during the forced hunt, he should buy another weapon soon. Cha was busy in his thoughts about what weapon to buy while a huge goblin appeared behind him out of nowhere and struck the rock Cha was sitting on since he had dodged the attack. The goblin asked Cha if he was the one who was massacring his race. Cha was startled and wondered how a goblin was speaking. The goblin threatened Cha and said he had the look of a scared rabbit that it was about to devour alive. The goblin asked if Cha ever saw a goblin like him before, to which he replied that he was the first. The goblin continued with the warning and said that Cha should know why he should fear him, as the goblin was going to tell him about his greatness. The goblin said that he was the being that was born to protect his race from brutal pillagers like Cha, and he was the defender of the goblins, Chief Karakra. Cha remembered that he had heard about him from his teacher, special entities that appeared amongst a no-intellectual monster race, a powerful, high-level monster with an ability to think for themselves. Karakra rushed for an attack and said that Cha would pay for the blood of his race that he had slaughtered. Karakra was fast, but Cha managed to block the first attack. Karakra managed to scratch Cha on the ribs, which hurt him. Cha thought that it was strong and had speed, strength, and combat sense as well. Karakra taunted Cha again, saying that he was weak, and even if his kind was weak, he expected a lot from Cha since a lot of them died, but it was a shame, and his bare fists were enough for Cha. Karakra told Cha that he would let him hit first. Cha said that Karakra talked like a human for something that was made. Karakra had no idea what Cha was talking about. Cha said that he was talking about their kind. For the past 3 weeks, he hunted 40 to 60 goblins every day. At the very least, a total of 1,000 goblins. The forest near the village wasn't that big, and Cha had not seen a goblin residence. But after every night, there were goblins roaming the forest again, a similar number of them in a similar ratio every day. And in that world, one might not understand, but it worked like a game. System, message, points, status window, growth, and much more. Karakra and his kind were infinitely respawning monsters. The demons who put the people made them too. Karakra started laughing and said that he wondered what Cha was talking about, but he was just a weakling spouting nonsense to think of that body like the other expandable ones. Cha asked if Karakra was different and why he was there. Karakra got furious again and told Cha to attack, and if he made even a small wound, he would reward him. Cha wondered if it was telling him to fight him if he wanted to know, but thanks to that, his head cooled down a little. Cha rushed for an attack and figured the longer they fought, the harder it would get for him. He would make an opening with a quick attack and find a way to beat him. Karakra mocked Cha for using a dagger like a longsword and told him to stop messing around. That triggered Cha, and he was about to stab Karakra in the eye, but Karakra barely dodged it. Cha concluded that a goblin was a goblin after all, fast and strong as Karakra was. But strangely, they didn't think about their next move. Cha had learned the basics of using the dagger from his teacher. He thought he could swing wide on purpose and pretend to have an opening. If it were the Cha from before, the movement would have been impossible. But for 3 weeks, his swordsmanship skills and his status all got stronger, so he must get his reward. Karakra got even more pumped and rushed for an attack, which was even faster, even though Cha managed to get a hit, but Karakra was able to reflect as a warrior from that. Cha started to mock Karakra and told him to stop delaying, to which Karakra replied with a knee to Cha's guts that made him fly and hit a tree. Cha coughed up blood and wondered if that broke his rib cage. Karakra was not done yet, and he felt like fighting. Cha lay injured on the ground as Karakra prepared to charge another attack, wondering if he was going to die if he didn't dodge it, and if it would all be over. But it hurt like hell, and he questioned himself if he would just let himself die. As Karakra got closer and closer to hit the finishing move, Cha continued thinking that he was too tired and why he had to go through the sufferings. Cha came to his senses in a split second and thought, what was he thinking? It was all because of the demons, and he dodged the attack. Karakra recognized Cha's dodging skills but didn't hesitate to charge again in a second. While dodging multiple attacks, Cha was running his mind again. It was like an unknown emissary of death. He had to hit the one who took him there in the face and ask why they did it. Karakra found an opening, but the attack managed to just skim Cha on the back. Cha managed to counter his way out of it and held back Karakra for a few meters. Karakra pointed out that Cha's left arm was hurt and his ribs were broken, but he didn't give up and respected him since he'd never seen a human like Cha before. Cha asked Karakra that he should give him what he wanted and asked how he came to halation. Karakra said that he would answer as a reward, but time was being wasted, so they should fight while they talked and went for another attack. While relentlessly attacking, Karakra said that he did not get dragged there and he came on his own. He got commissioned by the demons. Basically, he was a mercenary. Cha realized that meant that Karakra knew how to leave and asked about the process. Karakra said, why should he? To which Cha replied, he said it was a reward, and he was going to call it even with just one answer to a question. Karakra accepted that no more questions would be asked, but on the other hand, Cha got too relaxed, and did he forget about his left hand? Karakra thought he had the chance of getting Cha. He was wrong about him being distracted by the question, and ended up getting countered by Cha, who managed to land multiple attacks and even cut Karakura. Cha was right about goblins not thinking of their next move, and saw an opening and stabbed Karakura in the stomach while breaking his weapon in the process. Karakura fell to the ground, respecting Cha for being an incredible human. Cha was confused about what was incredible as Karakura intentionally got hit. Karakura silenced him and asked him not to insult their fight, and he fought without regrets. Cha sat down and lit a cigarette and asked Karakura if he wanted one, but he wasn't very keen, and told him that he didn't understand humans calling that stuff cigarettes. Cha noticed how fresh Karakura was, and to which he said that dying in battle was a blessing. Cha pointed out that Karakura didn't know how to leave. He didn't, and he knew the slins of the demons, but he still got fooled. They all called Karakura a monster, but he had family and friends. But because of a wrong contract, he couldn't get home for a long period of time. He always fought with everything, but regret, anger, and shame always harassed him. He was scared of longing the most. He was scared that he would be consumed by longing and would meet an end unsuitable for a warrior. He thanked Cha for fighting him with all he had and letting him die as a warrior. Cha asked why Karakura came on his own. He replied that he was still a mercenary, and they were bound to their contracts, just not as much as demons were. That's why he didn't have much to tell Cha. The disclosure was also part of the contract. Cha admired his incredible job loyalty and said he wasn't Karakura's suicide helper, nor his savior, and asked him not to put people in the role he wanted on his own. Cha stood up and started walking, but Karakura said that he should claim his reward before he left. Karakura said he didn't have much time left, and asked Cha to sit, and since he was dying he wanted to give Cha some clues, and there was nothing that would break any rules. Cha asked again for a cigarette, and Karakura accepted since it was better than nothing, and the conversation carried on. Karakura apologized for letting him have his way until the end. Cha said that he didn't need to be sorry and asked Karakura about the cigarettes, and they were better than he thought. Karakura liked them, considering they were human cigarettes and they were not bad. Saying his final words, Karakura fell to the ground as the sun was setting, and Cha bid farewell to Karakura. Cha came to Krusta and asked to heal him. Krusta healed Cha for 10,000 points and said that he wasn't complaining like usual of it being expensive and guessed that he got a ton of money for what he went through. Cha gave Krusta a bag and asked to show him what could be done with them. Krusta paused for a bit and asked if Cha killed Karakura, and he did really work hard since Karakura was strong. Cha asked again to show him what he could get. The conversation between Cha and Karakura before he died was that he told Cha to consume him. Karakura told him that he knew about it, but the other goblins didn't, and asked Cha if he was not going to do it because Karakura spoke and thought like his kind. It was as expected of human logic for Karakura, and he said that Cha shouldn't judge based on his own standards. It was an honor to remain as a part of the winner, and it was not a humiliation. Karakura said that if Cha wanted his heart, he should use all of it however he wanted. They would help, especially his nails. They were famous for being strong among his family. Cha was confused for a moment, but thanked Karakura for everything, for doing things his way until the end. At Krusta's, Cha was displayed a menu of the items he brought. Cha thought that he only fought Karakura for a short time, and it was a goblin too. But in that place besides his teacher, it was the only one he had a real conversation with. It was a bit awkward, but it felt like talking to a friend. Cha told Krusta to transplant the lens and sell the teeth, and there was a transplant option on a weapon, and asked if it was possible. Krusta said that would make a nice nail for Cha, and he asked if the area and shape could be adjusted. Krusuda insisted if Cha had the points, anything would be possible. Cha proceeded and thanked Karakura's spirit and asked him to lend his strength. Back at Cha's house, he tested his new weapons, which were claws coming out from his fists. The teacher said that Cha had watched too many shows. Cha asked if they were weird. The teacher replied they were nice, and they were a part of his body now, so they would be good for surprise attacks. Cha thought that he used a lot of points for the lens and nails, but they were worth it. The teacher asked if Cha found a core, and he replied there was one. The teacher said Cha would have gotten a lot of experience fighting a chief goblin, and he could tell just by looking at him, and asked Cha to continue talking while smoking. The teacher said that the chief goblins were warriors with pride. It was Cha's first time fighting an intelligent monster, and he would meet more as he grew. It was uncommon, but he could also have an emotional exchange with them like the one Cha had. Cha was surprised and asked the teacher how he knew, to which he said he could read Cha's expressions. The teacher continued and asked Cha to not hesitate for his own growth, and didn't the chief goblin say the same? Of course, Cha didn't feel good after killing an opponent that he shared his heart with. But there were many monsters like humans, and Halation was a place where even humans shed blood against each other. The teacher didn't want to say that while living dependent on Cha, but he asked him not to trust or get swayed easily by opponents, and the man who failed to do that was right in front of him. In short, There was no need to be depressed as Cha won the fight and survived. He smiled and said if Cha didn't think so, then he should look at his hand. The evidence that he was a warrior was right there. He motivated Cha to spread his chest, showing off his achievement as he had the right to do so. Cha's face lit up, and he thanked the teacher. The teacher asked about Cha's growth level. Cha said that it was more than he could imagine. After consuming Karakra, his health and strength was increased by 10%. Although the claws felt unusual at first, Cha slowly got used to them. They became a part of him. Surprisingly, using them didn't hurt, and he could control their length too. Cha vowed to get stronger, and he wouldn't disappoint his teacher in Karakra. His thoughts were interrupted by Youngchul, who said it was great to see each other often. Cha asked how he knew his location that time. Youngchul didn't like Cha's tone, and asked him if he was treating Youngchul like a stalker simply because he greeted Cha. Youngchul said that there weren't any interesting monsters in the area, so he stumbled upon Cha, and there weren't many places to go to anyways. Youngchul steered away from the conversation and asked Cha about the rumors he heard about him catching a big monster. Cha began to panic about whether Youngchul had heard or seen his claws. Cha said that Youngchul was really a stalker and asked why he cared so much about other people's stories. Youngchul said to forget about it, and they could talk about it later, and he wanted to discuss something with Cha. He said that Krusta was the one spreading rumors about Cha, so he shouldn't treat him like a stalker. Youngchul continued that he had no idea what Cha caught and how much he earned, but he was sure that it wasn't anything much. Cha was angry at Krusta, and thought he was glad that Youngchul had not found out about the nails of Karakra. Youngchul insisted that Cha shared some kind of information, grabbing him by the shoulder uncomfortably. Youngchul reminded Cha that he had 6 days left, and he suggested that he kept in his mind that the way he treated him changed, depending on Cha's attitude. Youngchul warned him that if Cha made him angry, then he would miss their good old days, so they should stay on good terms. Youngchul said that they should see each other after they had selected their classes. Cha was tempted to attack Youngchul while he was facing the other way and leaving, but he stopped himself. He composed himself and was ashamed to lose his composure over this, and he couldn't kill Youngchul anyway. If he tried to fight him, who had the protection of a guild, although Halishan was similar to the game, even if one got stronger, they could lose a limb in an instant, and there was no such thing as HP. Cha thought that he could go for a sneak attack with the nails, but he still needed to wait for a few more days. In 6 days, it would be 5 months since Cha arrived there. In order to become an official Latian settler, he needed to choose his class, which included Hunter, Marauder, Adventurer, and Guardian. After that, a new stat called Magic Power would unlock, and skills would become available. Although one could do all sorts of things they would be able to do in the games, it wasn't as fun as it sounded. That was when the humans of the 13th round would be able to kill each other, the ability to murder. Right then, it was impossible due to the rules of the demos, but stealing and even murdering would become trivial things soon. Although they said that those who had been there longer were safer, even those people only had a year at most. After that, they would lose their protection. Cha was not affiliated with any guilds or clans, but thankfully, he'd met his teacher and Karakra. Using that to his advantage, he needed to become stronger to survive in that world. In order to do that, he needed to get acquainted with the new weapon. Cha found a Paturus, a monster in the form of a giant toad. Its main weapons were its long, venomous tongue, along with jumping and rushing attacks using its big body. Not only was it tough to kill, but it didn't even have a core, so Cha never bothered to fight it. The Paturus attacked, and Cha wondered if it should be good enough practice with his new weapon. Cha could read its attack and cut its tongue, and he wasn't letting it get a chance. He went for the final blow, but it dodged, jumping high in the air. The Paturus countered by a rushing attack from mid-air, and it was faster than Cha thought, and he needed to step back. But he decided to trust Karakra and jumped himself to attack the Paturus head-on and managed to cut it. Cha had won in a head-on fight. He felt it when he took down the goblin too, but that had surpassed his expectations. Strength, precision, and convenience, Karakra was really a strong one. With that, after Cha had selected his class, his first forced hunt should be really easy. But there was something he wanted to do before that. As long as he did well, he'd definitely get stronger. What happened from that moment was the most important part. He had to remain focused for Karakra and his teacher. 6 days ago, Cha had come to the tower and thought it was time to select his class. Cha was feeling nervous even though it was only a selection. Cha went ahead and he was told that it would be a different demon from Kryusta. There was a gift box right in front of Cha, and he wondered if he should open it. Cha ended up opening it, and there was a small explosion, and behind the smoke there was a creature, and Cha wondered if it was the type he didn't like. A demon appeared and introduced themselves as Jack, and he was usually called Jack in the box. He welcomed Cha to the consecration of the first blessing. Jack asked Cha about the show he prepared for him earlier. Cha said that all demons started their conversations that way. Jack said that a sense of humor was essential for demons, and he was elite in that field. Cha apologized and said he had no time for comedy and could they get straight to the point. Jack said that Cha was hasty and they would start off with the class selection and asked Cha to tap the panel he liked in front of him twice, and Jack made it based on his interests. Cha already decided earlier, but as he was looking at it in person, he was having a hard time committing. One's class wasn't everything to get stronger, but Cha still needed to be careful. That's because the status one got was based on the class they selected. That was the so-called colonial privilege benefit. Hunters got health, marauders got strength, explorers got agility, and guardians got endurance. Marauder was definitely the most popular class. The reason for that was because of the strength increase. In the fights in Halation, strength was the most important. Most of the well-known pros were marauders as well. Since Cha's teacher was a marauder too, he would be able to give him a lot of advice, but Cha's choice was Hunter. Jack laughed that they would start immediately and casted a spell called Boundless Malice's Blessing. Jack asked if Cha liked it. Cha didn't know yet and thought if his health gain had been doubled, did that mean his health would increase by 0.04% per goblin core? Cha looked at the magic power status and they were as expected. There was not much to see. He'd have to hope he got a lot of cores that would increase his magic power, a status that affected the effects of his skills. Jack said that it wasn't over, and as a special benefit, Cha could choose a unique skill, so he should pick one. It was the perfect gift for newbies like him. For example, something like self-healing. Cha said camouflage of the jeweled lizard. Jack asked Cha to reassure his choice, and if he had read the entire list of the skills. Cha said he didn't need to think about it, and he wanted what he had asked. Jack asked why Cha had chosen this skill, and it could be easily replaced. Cha said what reason he had to tell Jack something. Jack was angered and changed his form to a menacing beast and told Cha that there was no reason, but if he wanted to know, Cha must answer, and silence, lies, and all those excuses wouldn't work, and Cha didn't have a choice, and it would be helpful for Cha to remember that when he was talking to a demon. Cha was unfazed by Jack's threat and asked him if he wanted to hear his answer that badly. Jack said that he was just joking, and he was just doing his duty as a clown, so Cha didn't need to be tense, but Cha didn't look surprised. Jack said that it was impressive that Cha had survived that far, but the real thing was just starting. The real game started with the official colonization, so Cha should use what he had to forge ahead. Cha left, and as he was going far from the tower, he started sweating and was breathing heavily, and he thought he was going to die, and it was his first time feeling so intimidated. He asked himself how strong did he have to become to face them, and if he was ever could escape Halation. Cha was back home and told his teacher about the unique skill he chose. The teacher asked him if the first unique skill was important and if he knew why. Cha said he did. There were two ways to learn skills. One was the unique skill distribution in class selection, but in reality, there was only one real way. That method was the skill ring. One could buy them with points or obtain them from slain monsters. The value of the ring depended on its rarity, but they were heavily overpriced to the extent it was not even worth it. The best method would be to get them from monsters, but the drop rate and rarity were both low when it came to weak monsters. So in the end, to get a good skill, one needed to take down strong monsters. The first class unique skill was important. The teacher asked for Cha's reasoning. Cha thought to himself because it was the last opportunity to get a good skill without putting in any effort. Cha said that the teacher probably knew the reason. The teacher said to him that the important thing was what he thought, so Cha should spill it. Cha explained that the camouflage of the jeweled lizard was a skill that redistributed the status-precise numerical value for a limited amount of time and could be used very flexibly in many situations. The teacher asked for their adaptation, to which Cha went blank. The teacher said that it was good, but there were plenty of alternatives. Cha said that those were hard for him to obtain or use at the moment. Regardless, that was not the main reason. Cha continued and said that the key points were two things. First, it was a unique skill. It would not be affected by Cha's magic power ratio. Unique skills could be evolved, and it would definitely become a joker card as he grew. That would be more useful for him who had low magic power at that moment, and there was no reason not to pick it. The teacher admired Cha and said that he'd grown. He said to use that skill to the max. There was a perfect monster for Cha, and it would be better than goblins in many ways. The next morning, Cha came to the place his teacher told him about. There it was, a solitary monster that holded vast territory unsuitable to hunt many in a short amount of time. But if Cha got practice off of it and used it to hunt others, it would benefit his point gain. It also had a core. Cha decided to rely on strength and agility first and take it down as fast as possible. Cha rushed for an attack and thought it would not matter if he lowered his health and stamina for a moment and finished the monster in one hit. The monster countered Cha's attack, and he remembered what his teacher told him about its main weapon, which were jump attacks. Cha would not have been able to dodge it if he hadn't raised his agility with his skill. The recovery of the monster was slow. If Cha had gotten hit, then it would have been instant death. Cha rushed again, but he was late as the monster blocked and countered, hitting Cha with its tail, making him roll on the ground. Cha wondered if he got the gist of the tail's power. The monster kept attacking Cha, but he dodged every one of them and finally found an opening for a counter, which hit it right in the guts, killing it. Cha fell to the ground, breathing heavily, and raised his nails in the air, realizing he had won, and it was easier than expected too. Cha heard that it had thin skin, but even considering that, he killed it fast. Karakra's nails, the new skills, and the status Cha raised for that monster. If he got one more thing, he could get stronger and faster. Cha found the core and realized he got lucky from the start, and it was a lot better than a goblin core, and the smell and taste were different too. It was 6 times that of a goblin. Cha came to Krusta, and from the Koilo monster, he gave 16 tailbones, 19 livers, and 17 tendons. He gained a total of 1,190 points. He gained a total of 30,000 points after 4 weeks of Koilo hunting, and he worked really hard. From the 4th day, 10 a day, and 20 a day by the 4th week, over 360 Koilos in total. The point gain was nice, but the precise numerical value increase rate was incomparable. Cha figured out that the cores came out better than those of goblins, and the point gain was good. It was way more dangerous to hunt Koilos, but he was used to it now. Cha's thoughts were interrupted by Krusta, who asked him to look at his stats outside since he had no other business there. Cha said that he had something else, to which Krusta asked if he wanted more cigarettes, and that it was not a convenience store. Cha asked if it was possible he wanted to pay the rent earlier. Krusta teased Cha that since he was making more money, he wanted to take care of rent first when he didn't even know what would happen tomorrow. Krusta asked if he wanted something else. Cha said that he won't participate in the next forced hunt. Krusta said that there would be a 5,000 point penalty, and the next hunt was mandatory, and the next skill would be double that. That would make 10,000 points, and asked Cha if he understood. Cha knew, and then Krusta added that there were a lot of perks to the first forced hunt. Cha said that he understood, and asked Krusta to hurry up and take care of it for him. Krusta laughed and taunted Cha for being scared when he thought he got a bit stronger. Cha had 16,450 points left. Cha left and wondered if there were many benefits to the first forced hunt. There was a high chance of getting equipment and a lot of points with monsters that were easy to kill. And if one was lucky, they could even get rare skill rings that were hard to come by with field crops. However, the reason Cha avoided the forced hunt was because of survival. Since Cha had to compete with other 13th rounders who received heavy support, keeping his life, much less his income, could be hard. But in return, he would go into the hunting areas he couldn't go near because of the clans and families, and occupied them for himself while they were at the forced hunt. This way he could get many points safely. Equipment and skill rings were good, but points were the most versatile. No matter what he thought about it, Cha made a good decision. Cha was back home and he saw the teacher laying on the floor. Cha panicked and rushed to pick him up and asked what happened. The teacher said that he was fine and just got slapped a few times. Cha helped the teacher up and asked who did it. The teacher said it was Park Hyun-soo, and Cha knew him. There was no way Cha could forget. After a week of survival, he was dragged there. Park approached Cha to use him as a points shuttle. He wouldn't even dare to look at Cha's teacher when he was in his prime. Cha asked why he did that to the teacher. The teacher said a few guilds were making an alliance to make an expedition squad, and it looked like his info was needed. There were still a lot of unexplored areas. Discovering them first had a lot of benefits, so there were frequent expeditions. The teacher knew a bit about one of the candidates for their exploration location, so Park made a mess trying to get information out of him. Cha said that there was no reason for him to get physical, and he could have pleaded formally if he needed to. The teacher said since he was in a weak state and they knew his location, of course they would have a reason and come for him, and asked Cha if he still hasn't fixed his soft logic of his. In any case, the teacher told them off and they would be back later, and they might come for Cha as well. He told Cha to be careful of that and try to avoid direct confrontation. Cha asked, since he was a first year, the higher years couldn't touch him and he had no reason to avoid it. The teacher said that despite his current state, thanks to his stats, his M=sign body was still hard and able to endure. But he was not an opponent Cha could face yet. Cha said that the teacher shouldn't worry and he won't look for him intentionally, but if they meet he'll talk. Cha looked at his stats and thought that since he kept using it to kill Koilos, his skill's precise numeral value rose a bit. The hunt was a long one, so Cha couldn't ignore health and stamina. He tried to balance them out as much as possible. Later, Cha spotted a rainbow snake. He thought he could sell its eyeballs, poison pouch, and leather. It was an expensive monster. He could use its meat by turning it into jerky for food, as well as use it as monster bait. Cha killed it with one hit and was surprised about how easy it was, and if he kept going like this, he could get a ton more points than he predicted. Before the end of the forced hunt, he could wipe out all the monsters in that area. Cha came across another monster, a golem. He defeated it, and obtained a golden-colored golem's crystal ball, which was supposed to be worth 3,000 points. Cha knew they called that place a gold mine for first years, but the place didn't disappoint at all. He knew that taking the camouflage of the jeweled lizard was the best choice. With all the hard work, the total amount of points that he earned was 12,250. Cha laughed, wondering how Krusta should have seen the look on her face when she found out, and Cha wished he had a phone so he could take a photo of it. To think that the entire forest Cha was in was under the control of the major clans. He questioned himself about why they needed competition when they were all in it together. Cha heard a rustle in the woods and was on guard. Cha thought he got way too excited about the points. There was bound to be a 13th rounder that didn't participate in the forced hunt. There was no way they would be in their second year. It was a hunting ground only appealing to first years. Cha wondered if he should redistribute his stats to handle close combat. Cha asked the hidden creature about how long they were going to stay like that. He was sure that they had plenty of chances to sneak up on him. Why don't they get to the point if they had something to say? Cha warned them that they shouldn't try anything or else he would have no choice. A woman came out of the bush, and Cha remembered her name. Right after Cha was dragged there, during the first week of just trying to survive, he didn't even get the chance to ask for her name, but he remembered her clearly. When people were too busy running away, she was one of the only ones to stay back and fight the monsters. Cha was one of those weak people that ran away at the time, although he still had a way to go. The woman asked Cha if he was in the same year. Cha knew that she wouldn't remember him. The woman asked if he was alone. Cha said that he didn't know, and he wondered if he was. There was no point in telling her that Cha was alone. There was no way of predicting how she might react. The woman asked how long Cha had been hunting there. Cha said he had no reason to answer her, and just by looking at her gear, he could tell that they were there for the same reason and jumped straight to the point. The woman said that using the trees as the point, she got the east and Cha got the west. Since she didn't like people crossing the line, she told Cha to be careful. Cha asked her to be careful too. The woman pointed out Cha's weapon and said it was interesting and asked if he copied it from the movies. Cha said he only cared about efficiency. The woman laughed and said that Cha was not honest with himself and bid him good luck and left. Cha wondered what was wrong with her and why she made fun of him after appearing out of nowhere. She had no clue what that weapon was capable of. Cha was glad that they ended the conversation without fighting, but that was bound to slow his hunting pace. Since there was no guarantee that she wouldn't attack him, he would need to keep his guard up. Cha blushed for a second thinking about the woman, but slapped his cheeks and thought there was nothing better than hunting to distract his mind. Cha decided to hunt some more and then head back. Although he did reach the day's goals, his pace wasn't the only thing affected. Since he needed to be wary of his surroundings, it was going to be twice as taxing. Cha realized that not having allies could be bothersome for times like that. That woman seemed alone too, with the skills she showed off. She should have been scouted by a nice place. Cha was again lost in other thoughts and stopped himself from thinking about pointless things and blamed it on the woman. Cha didn't have the energy to be angry anymore and decided to eat, then go back to sleep once he got back. Cha spotted a goblin, and it felt like it had been a while since he saw one. Goblins were pretty easy to deal with, and he finished it off with a whiff. As Cha was eating its core, the woman was standing behind him and saw him eating the core. Terrified of the scene, she asked Cha if there was something wrong with him. Cha thought he was screwed and wondered how the woman was done with her hunt already. By looking at her face, Cha thought she didn't notice the core. The woman said to Cha that he was a psycho and asked him if he ate a goblin's heart. Cha tried to explain, but the woman insisted that he ate the heart and asked him if that didn't make him a psychopath. Cha asked the woman to listen to him and explained he had his reasons to do such a thing. The woman pulled out her blade while Cha kept insisting that she listen to him, but she refused to talk. Cha asked if she was killing him right away, and would she give him a chance to discuss it first. Cha said that if he really wanted to fight, then he would face her, but avoiding an unneeded fight was more beneficial for them. Cha asked her what her decision was. The woman said that she couldn't trust him because of how crazy Cha was, and killing him would be best, but she also didn't like needless killing, so she'll listen for a little bit. She gave Cha 5 minutes to explain. Cha began by saying it was true that he ate the goblin's heart, but it was not because he was a psycho like the women thought. The women asked what it was then, and was it like some kind of gourmet food from another world? Cha said that he was currently housing a teacher, and he couldn't recover from a big injury, but he saved Cha's life. Cha said that he was embarrassed to say it, but with his current skill, he didn't make enough to keep him afloat. So to lower the cost of food, the method he chose was eating monsters. That was also wisdom he learned from his teacher. The woman was confused if a goblin's organs were edible, and there were plenty of other animal types. Cha said it wasn't easy, but one had to do what they could to survive, especially inhalation. Cha said that it wasn't bad once someone gets used to it and offered the women if she wanted to try. The woman said that even if she pretended to understand the meat, why was Cha talking the heart out to eat? Cha said that it was good to prevent scurvy. He said that vegetables were hard to get for him to get. He continued and said that he threw up a lot at first, but he adapted to survive. He asked the women about her doing the same, and only the method was different. He cleared out that he didn't eat humans, and that was all he had to say, and if she still couldn't believe him, he would comply with what she wanted to do. Cha took out his nails and warned her to not expect him to go down easily, and he had a favor to repay to someone. The woman put back her weapon and said that she didn't believe him, but she also didn't have much evidence to go against it, and she was tired so she would look over it. But she warned him that if she felt something was weird, she would attack Cha without hesitation. She asked Cha to come later and keep his distance and not get in her way when she was hunting. She left and said to Cha that she hoped he could stay healthy. Cha had avoided a fight and was glad that the story he made up on the spot worked, and he would have to be more careful in the future when he collected cores. The next morning, Cha bought a slowpoke buffalo leather armor. It was an entire 45,000 points. The armor was good, but thinking ahead, it was useful since he could wear it with something else. Cha had 19,580 points remaining. If he could get 70,000 more points, he could buy the skill ring he wanted. He got used to hunting at the Brilliant Forest, and even if he only had 4 days left, it would be enough. The women and Cha met again, and it was uncomfortable for Cha, as he wondered if she was waiting for him. Cha asked her that she wanted to stay out of her sight, so why was she waiting for him? The woman said that she wasn't waiting for anyone, and they should divide their areas before going in. The woman said that from the tree, Cha got the west and she got the north. She asked Cha again to not enter her sight. Cha called her back as she was leaving and said that instead of calling each other you and hey, why couldn't they exchange names? The woman refused, and Cha wondered how hot-tempered she was, and she could at least give her name as he did what she wanted for 3 days, and couldn't trust him a little. Cha remembered his teacher's words about trusting someone, and realized that was somewhere he should follow that advice, and it would be different if they met outside. Cha lit a cigarette and heard someone approaching and hid behind a tree. It was 2 men looking for someone. Cha wondered if there were more people who didn't join the hunt. The guys were from the 13th round, just like Cha. All Cha remembered was the fact that they were foreigners. The 2 guys started talking, and Cha was still behind a tree overhearing them about enough points for them to steal, and about stealing weapons and equipment as well. They were trying to sneak up on the women, and if Cha left them be, there was a high chance of things going out of hand. Just by looking at them, Cha knew they would get rid of the women and take over the forest until the forced hunt was over. Cha didn't know how strong they were, but it could be a 2 versus 2 if things worked out, and it was worth a shot. Cha decided that he would keep an eye on them and sneak up on them before they could do anything. If he could take care of one of them, he should be able to kill the other one with the women's help. Cha had the thought of killing someone without much consideration. That may lead to his first time killing someone. But Cha thought, why wasn't he hesitant, and had hunting goblins too much changed him? Cha realized that he was losing the 2 men and he needed to think about it later. The guys said to themselves, and one of them said that they would take a look around at first, and told the other one to hide when he was told. The guys spotted the women as she was fighting a monster and they split up. Cha wondered if they were waiting for a diversion, as he couldn't hear what they were saying. If it was the women, she shouldn't have a problem with one of them. One of the guys splitting up was barehanded, and Cha thought, why hasn't he brought his weapon out? Cha decided to follow the guy who was splitting up. The big-chinned guy who split up was watching the battle patiently, and decided once she got her guard down, then he would attack. The women had defeated the monster, meanwhile Cha was waiting for the guys to make a move. He used camouflage of the jeweled lizard and figured that he would redistribute his stats to stamina and agility, and finish it in an instant. Since he had the steel health skill, he could use that when he needed to. One of the guys was preparing to attack with shurikens. Cha had missed a calculated run, but the guy already threw the shurikens. Cha screamed to the women to get down, but one shuriken hit her on the shoulder. Cha rushed to face the shuriken thrower, and the other guy came face to face with the women. They both attacked at the same time. The guy's fist and the women's blade clashed. Meanwhile, Cha had to block a body kick, but the guy had learned martial arts. The kick had landed on Cha, but it didn't seem to faze him. Cha knocked the guy out with one punch. Cha thought maybe it was because of his new armor, but it looked like he didn't take any damage and the guy was weak too. On the other hand, the woman was having a hard time facing the man. He was using kickboxing and was way faster than she thought. The guy was about to land an attack, and the woman realized she couldn't dodge it. Cha came just in time to block the attack himself, but he felt the attack that time and realized the other guy was a martial artist too, and every attack was fast and heavy, and the guy must have been a marauder. The guy was getting impatient and started to bombard Cha with attacks, and said that if they were on Earth, he would have taken out Cha ages ago, and all those skills and stats were pissing him off. And the guy who Cha killed wasn't someone that would lose to a stick like him. Cha said that he hadn't killed him and just knocked him out. The guy caught Cha with a blow to the guts, and even with the skill and armor it hurt a lot, but Cha reminded himself that he wasn't going down there. The guy said to Cha that he was more determined than he thought, grabbing him by the hair. The guy continued and said that looking at Cha's moves, it looked like he learned some martial arts too, and he just happened to meet the wrong opponent. Cha asked the guy if he was planning to kill him and the women. The guy laughed and said of course he was, and what else would be the point of a sneak attack? He asked Cha if he was going to beg for his life, and if he was planning to do that. Why did he fight them in the first place? Cha told him not to be misunderstood and placed his punch on the guy's stomach. The guy taunted Cha that it was a nice punch. Cha asked him again if he was going to kill them. The guy's answer didn't change and he became more violent with his words. Cha brought out his nails and stabbed the guy. Cha wondered that in the end he had killed a person, but it felt no different than killing a goblin. The relief that he won, the pain throughout his body, that was all he could feel. He wondered if it was all because of the hunting he had done. The woman told Cha that she couldn't tell what was going on, but Cha saved her. Cha said that he just happened to see them while hunting. The woman asked him why he put in the effort to help her like that. He said that he only made a logical decision because there was no guarantee that they wouldn't go after Cha. The women thanked Cha, which triggered him somehow. The women asked what that was, to which Cha messed around and said that he was in shock and couldn't hear it, and asked the women to say it again. Cha played around and said he got hurt and that was the least she could do. The woman said that she would make sure to pay back the debt. Meanwhile, the guy Cha knocked out was standing again and was in shock seeing his partner die since he was among the 13 rounds. Cha thought that the guy must have thought that the big-chinned one wouldn't lose, but to think he was approaching them that close. Compared to his skills, his intelligence was not up to par. Cha called the guy, which made him terrified, and he began to run away. The woman was about to throw the shuriken at the running man, while Cha tried to stop her, but it was too late, and the shuriken hit the guy right in the head and killed him. Cha asked the woman why she did that. The woman replied that since they attacked them first, she was only repaying the favor and said that Cha killed the fat one too. Cha said that was different, and he had no choice. There was no need to kill someone that was running away. Cha thought that something was off, and why was he screaming and angry? The woman asked Cha that something was off since earlier, and it was not like Cha was really putting in any effort to stop her. Cha asked the woman if she was going to be okay. She replied she was and asked Cha not to make her repeat herself. Cha was doing something called mark harvest. These were activities where one would place their hand on top of the mark on the dead, or to be exact, people who had their hearts stopped. The dead's points temporarily went to the person who had harvested them, and they could permanently keep them at the tower. Cha thanked the woman and told her to call the price for helping. The woman replied that fighting together and telling about the ambush was different. It was her standard, so she told Cha to not say anything, and he had to calculate cleanly for her to be satisfied. The woman asked Cha if he was done, then he was to help and support her since it hurt to walk on her own. Cha said that he would do it for free, although he was injured as well, but he was still in a better state than she was. Cha said that he could come back after getting healed, but it was unfortunate that all the time was wasted because of the two guys. The woman asked Cha if he was trying to make her say sorry since she gave him all the marks and that should cover it. Cha said that wasn't the reason, and listening to the two guys' conversation, they were out having fun before they came there and asked the women if she thought they gathered some stuff up. The woman said that they were pretty strong and they could have stuff, but the ambushing was cowardly. Cha realized that once they broke the ice between them, the woman was pretty normal. Cha remembered the incident moments ago when she seemed cold-blooded, which made him a bit dull. The woman asked what was wrong, and she replied that he was curious about something and wanted to ask, but he forgot. The woman insulted Cha for being old and forgetting things, and he thought that she was doing well until she started insulting him again. Cha said that he remembered, and he felt like she would have gotten a good scout offer by now, so he was wondering why she was alone. The woman asked why Cha was curious about that. Cha said that's because she was skilled, and she didn't have to answer if she didn't want to. The woman said that she did go once with 6 Poles. Cha thought of 6 Poles, the family that the 6 Koreans with different last names founded. It was a pretty strong organization with only Koreans, and that was impressive. Cha said to her that it was good, but asked the reason behind her joining. The woman said that she didn't want to answer, but Cha thought that was originally what he asked, and was frustrated, and wanted to get healed fast. Both of them reached the tower. The woman asked to go into the tower alone and pushed Cha, to which he said that it was pretty harsh to do such a thing to a person who helped her. Cha realized that it was a loss for him no matter how he thought about it, and wished he had pretended not to know her. The woman told her name was So Young. Cha didn't hear the first time, to which So Young said that he asked to call her by name and said her name was An So Young. Cha told his name in return. She smiled at Cha and waved goodbye. It seemed like Cha was thinking all that in his mind and was disturbed by Krisuda. Krisuda said that she was wondering why Cha came so early, but he got injured, and the healing price was 10,000 points. Krisuda asked for anything. Cha said that he got 2 marks. Krasuda smirked and told Cha that he had figured out how to live, and pointed out farming was best for humans, and he was fast for an idiot. She continued and said that monsters were just for the environment, and the key to survival was murder and reaving. Cha started to have flashbacks about killing those 2 guys, and the cold-blooded reply that So-young gave her. But soon Cha snapped out and made an excuse that he found some corpses that had killed each other, and asked Krasuda to give him the points. Krasuda said that she would let go this time, and his lying skills sucked and choked his results for harvesting a corpse. Cha came out of the tower stressed and wondered if So-young had gone back already. Cha checked his points, and wondered if the 2 guys had over 80,000 points on them, and now he could get much higher skills. He had a lot of wants, his heart was dizzy, but at the moment, he decided to only look forward. Cha grew fast without waste. He would keep getting stronger, and eventually, he would hear an answer personally from the demons. Cha was out hunting again in no time and felt stronger. Although he lost a lot more blood than he thought, it was worth it to him. He acquired a new skill called Rush of the Fearful Baroque. The skill doubled his stats for 5 minutes, the only exception being his magic power. It was simple, but effective. With that skill, he could hunt the monsters in the brilliant forest just like he did with the goblins. The first downside of being was its short time. The effects of the skill wearing off were surprisingly noticeable. Not only did his stats return to normal, it even made his body feel heavy. He needed to get used to the feeling and get a sense of how long the skills lasted. The other downside, the increased cooldown time due to his low magic power. Unlike what people knew as magic, those powers were different. It didn't use up MP and only had a cooldown time. If one's magic power stat was higher, the skills became more potent and the cooldown time decreased. Since it was a stat that determined the effect of the skill, it didn't receive the effects of Rush. Cha needed to figure out how long the cooldown time was, although there were indicators, one of those being a headache. Once the headache was gone, that was when he could use it again. The current cooldown time was 20 minutes, and then around 40 minutes if he used it with camouflage. Although it seemed long and fair, Cha needed to get stronger. It would become his Joker card for when he needed it. It would be useful during the soon-to-come trail. Cha arrived at the tower and saw people coming out of it, and wondered if the forced hunt was over. Cha thought that the good days were over, and Koilo hunting was his only option. He thought he would just be happy with what he made, and decided to sell some stuff and head back home. Bae Yunkel arrived, taunting Cha as usual about coming to visit him. Cha wondered how he always got to find him. Cha asked him if it seemed like nothing went wrong, to which Yungchul confidently said that it would have been more exciting. Bae Yungchul completely changed his aura, and asked Cha why he didn't join the forced hunt. Cha said that he didn't feel like it, and what was it to Yungchul? Bae Yungchul reminded Cha that depending on how he acted, Bae's attitude towards him would change. Yungchul told Cha he thought that Cha would be more cooperative and at least pretend to participate during forced hunt, but he didn't come and he was very disappointed. Bae said that Cha wouldn't last here by himself. It was better to stick with each other even if it meant dealing with him. He gave Cha one last chance and told him there was another forced hunt in a month, he should make sure he kept up the good work. Either Cha would get killed following Bae or get killed by him. Cha wonders if something was off. Yungchul noticed the glare Cha was giving him and told him to stop looking or else he would pay. An unknown person called Yungchul and told him they needed to finalize things. Bae Yungchul asked Cha to think long and hard, and he needed to participate in the next hunt. Cha wondered about the change in attitude of Bae. Before that, why did he try to get him to work with him and something didn't seem right? Cha realized why, since he had done that himself too. He had killed too. 4 weeks later in their house, Cha and the teacher were having dinner, and there was a huge meal prepared by Cha, and the teacher asked what was it all for. Cha said that he decided to go all out since he made enough money. Since he needed to get equipment for the next forced hunt, he thought he'd spend some money while he was out. The teacher said that he needed to save money just in case, though he now had an idea of how Cha would have lived if he was on Earth. Maybe it was because the teacher hadn't had fatty foods in a while, but that was too much for him and asked Cha for a smoke before they ate. The teacher said that it was just 3 days away and time went fast. The teacher told Cha once the forced hut started, he shouldn't pull his punches. He asked Cha about young Chul, the one who was dragging Cha to the forced hunt. The teacher said he knew while life there was hell, the forced hunt was even worse. Since there was no gain, it was more brutal, and he learned that after killing. The more things Cha had under his belt, the better. People were just one more of those means. The teacher knew that Cha was a good person, but there he needed to change and asked Cha that he was already prepared for that. Cha had the flashback of his kill and said that the teacher was right and he would keep that in mind. The teacher asked to start eating, and amidst that, Cha thought he was aware that the teacher knew about the killing and decided he needed to do everything in his power, and he would make sure to come back alive. He would make sure that he made out with the teacher. Cha was standing with a crowd of people ready to go to the forced hunt. As Cha and multiple others waited in front of the portal to go in, he told himself to not be nervous, and he was strong. He entered the portal in a dark space, and a demon appeared before them. The demon said there were some who he had seen before, and some were new. The demon's name was Karu, the Mounties' hunting enforcer. Young Chul screamed from behind the crowd and asked the demon to begin. The demon acknowledged Young Chul's insult and said he was energetic as ever. Cha wondered how Young Chul was saying stuff like that, and was he a demon who just glossed over things jokingly? Karu asked everyone to get going, and the hunting ground they would be challenging was the Tower of Time. It was a huge building that suddenly appeared. Karu explained that there was no real meaning to the name, and they would clear the hunt if they reached the 5th floor of the tower. Karu then explained the rules. The 5th floor opened just for one day on the 10th day. They couldn't go up there either before or after. Latecomers would unfortunately disappear with the tower forever. It would be painless, so those who couldn't endure the tower might want to consider that option. Cha thought all the demons were like that, but he could see why no one liked them. Karu said that he would be giving them wristwatches to help them keep track of the days. He added that they would have to personally kill 100 monsters each to enter the 5th floor. In the occipital of each monster, there were black coins called tower tokens. They were worth 1,000 points apiece. If one was lazy, they could also get handouts. To make it easy, if one obtained someone else's wristwatch, they could also take their monster kills. Cha wondered that in other words, the demon was saying that instead of working hard to kill monsters, kill the people who killed monsters. Karu came to the last rule. The competitors couldn't stay on the same floor for more than a day. Otherwise, their location would be revealed to everyone, including monsters. One of the contestants, who teamed up with Young Chul, said that that was bad for them. Young Chul reassured him that it was best for them, since they were the strongest group. Young Chul thought to himself that he was the strongest, and the group was just a mere show and he would kill them all once he had his work done for him. So Young, standing a bit back from Young Chul, thought that they would be constantly on the move, which meant it was to include confrontations. Cha thought that was trouble. The groups had mostly been formed, and skipping the first would bite him in the back like that. If he went to Young Chul, it would be a miracle if he didn't get used to being backstabbed. The person he had a chance with was So Young. Cha saw So Young approaching him. She extended her hand and asked Cha to team up. The hunt had begun, and Yun Chul was mad about Cha not accepting his offer to join him, but it didn't matter since he was planning to dispose of him from the beginning, and he would not go easy on him and kill him the moment they crossed paths. Karu still had announcements to make, but everyone just rushed off and decided to say the rest at the entrance. Cha and So Young were inside the tower. Cha said it was good to act fast, but they needed to discuss things beforehand. So Young said that she would if they had time, and for things like that, being fast gave them the advantage, and there was no time to talk. Cha thought that it didn't occur to her that they could have walked into a trap. So Young said that the discussions that Cha wanted to have, he should, and pointed out 4 different stairways and asked where they were going. Cha said that there was not much to think about, and they didn't know anything until they went in. Karu, standing and listening to the 2 behind them, scared them, and explained that even though the monsters were different on each floor, the danger levels were similar. In other words, there was no need to overthink it. So Young asked if demons had a disease that would cause them to die if they didn't scare humans. Karu laughed and said that it was to help them relax. Cha wondered if the demon had a different type of tiring humor than that Jack guy. Cha asked if the tower had a similar structure to the village central tower. Karu didn't understand Cha, so he elaborated and asked if each room also had a separate space-time dimension for each team. Krusta appeared separately to everyone who entered, and he heard that was how it was possible. Karu said that Cha was correct, but why was he asking? Cha said he figured that Karu had more to say, and if he guessed correctly, there was no need to worry about the others coming behind them since Karu didn't want them to know which floor Cha and So Young went to. Karu laughed and said that he liked Cha and snapped his fingers. 2 wristwatches appeared on both of their hands. Karu said that it would tell them time and date, so they should take care of it. Karu explained press the button once to see the monster kill count, and twice to see the location information. If they press it after entering the tower, it would show them the floor they were on as well as the coordinates. And if they pressed it 3 times, they would see the tower rankings. They would receive a special gift if they were on it. The monsters on each floor changed daily, and the corpses of monsters and humans, and items that were not picked up, would reset. If they engaged in multiple combat with multiple foes at the time of reset, the situation continued, and those they killed won't disappear. Cha thought it would be hard to find an easy floor to hold out or a place to hide items. Karu said that he was done and asked them which floor they wanted to go to. So Young said that it was unnecessarily long and complicated, and asked Karu if he didn't leave anything out. Karu said that it would be tiring, as if they lacked trust. Karu realized Cha was the guy the clown demon spoke about to him, and he was a fun one for sure. Karu forgot about the rule that the stairs to each floor changed locations daily, and on the 9th day, everyone would be forcibly transported to the first floor, but Cha and So Young had already climbed the stairs, so Karu decided that it wouldn't be fair to them, so he would not tell the others about it as well. Cha and So Young entered a hall. So Young pointed out that it looked more like a theme park than regular interior decor, and she didn't understand the taste of demons at all. Cha asked her to check their location first on the watch. There were numbers and letters on the wall, and Cha didn't know how to read them, but he knew they were on the 3rd floor. So Young said that the distance was about 1 meter per unit. Cha realized they would have to hunt in a maze like that for 10 days, and he wanted to smoke but couldn't. So Young asked him to check the location of the stairs first, which was the most important information there. The two spotted a monster, a ramen soldier, and realized they came out quickly. So Young said that she saw them at the entrance of the Castle of Ruins, but she didn't think they would appear there. Cha was surprised about her going there since it was a high-ranking hunting ground. So Young said that she was wandering around with nowhere to go, so she just took a peek, and if she was at the level to play around there, she wouldn't be alive. Cha thought that he heard that they were pretty tough opponents for first years. They would be hard to deal with if one didn't work hard to grow stronger. At his current level, Cha shouldn't have difficulties, but the castle ruins were impossible for him alone due to the high density of monsters. However, he asked So Young if it would be easy for both of them. So Young agreed, and Cha said to go ahead first and asked her to connect if she saw an opening. Cha used camouflage of the jeweled lizard and decided to distribute the points into health, strength, and stamina, and put the rest all into agility. On top of that, Steel Health and Health Maintenance would double his health generation, and finally, when he added the rush of the Fearful Baroque, his agility would momentarily increase to rank 6. Cha rushed and surprisingly attacked the monster and sliced him right on the shoulder. He rushed again while So Young was shaken at Cha's speed and wondered if he was really rank 7. Cha killed the monster with a second slash and found it easier than he thought. So Young asked if Cha really needed her, to which he questioned why she was making jokes like that. She insisted she was serious and had never seen someone move that fast before. Cha attributed it to his skill, mentioning its short activation time. Pausing, he asked So Young if she remembered his eating habit. So Young urged him not to do so there, but Cha explained he needed to eat after every fight, otherwise he'd feel bad. He assured her it wouldn't take long, as they had to cut up the monsters to collect the tokens. So Young reluctantly agreed, and Cha thanked her. Cha recalled being told that ramen soldiers had cores. He cut the monster up and found its core. Consuming it increased his endurance permanently by 0.27%. This was much higher than Koilos, and if it had been healthy, it would have been even more. Cha thought this would enable him to grow stronger at a much higher rate. So Young asked if he was done, suggesting they start looking for the token. They found the token resembling a coin. So Young asked to keep it safe, and Cha asked how they should split it. So Young suggested they split it in half, reasoning that there were just the two of them. Cha wondered if So Young might be annoyed, but felt he had no choice. He couldn't leave the cores behind. There would be a limit to his excuse. He preferred to avoid sharing information about the cores, but he might have to let her know later on. He would have to wait and see if he could share the information with her during the forced hunt on the 2nd floor of the Tower of Time. Meanwhile, a group of people on the 2nd floor of the Tower of Time had killed a monster and were chatting about how it was easier than expected. Young-kul stood far away, wondering if those people were idiots. He planned to take care of them later and secure his position in the rankings. The main point of the tower wasn't survival, but rankings. Young-chul had heard about Karu, knowing there would be a reward worth the effort. He believed in taking advantage of others to ensure he ended up on top. Young-kul was interrupted by someone who remarked that things were going well since the monsters were weak, and they might not encounter other teams. Young-chul attributed it to everyone doing their best, but privately thought the person was an idiot, and was relieved not to meet anyone else. Another person credited Young-chul for their success, saying that without him, they would be in trouble. Young-chul asked which people they were talking about, and they mentioned Cha and So Young, expressing confusion over why they had rejected Young-chul's offer. Young-chul laughed, dismissing Cha as a weakling who had run off with some girl. He considered it a foolish decision and vowed to ensure they didn't survive. Meanwhile, Cha fought another ramen soldier, which proved stronger. Teaming up with So Young, she used the strike of the magic warrior Refident, delivering a powerful blow that surprised Cha and killed the monster. So Young remarked that their styles were different, but felt she was doing pretty well. Cha reminded her of her earlier statement about not needing him there, likening her to a walking finishing move. He hadn't expected her to come from behind with such force and decided to adjust his plans accordingly. So Young found another token and asked Cha if it was her turn. Cha was busy eating the core and asked her to make sure she got everything. Cha's strength increased by 0.50% and he thought the possibility that they had a Kree was high, and the growth rate was high as well. As long as he continued to maintain the pace during the forced hunt, he should be able to grow a lot stronger. The only issue was the way they hunted. So Young mentioned that she was a marauder. If she used her marauder's combat ability buff, even blocking it wouldn't do much, and he better not show his back when she used that skill. The fact that Cha was giving her the finishing blows, it was concerning that she was the only one recording the kills, although he wanted to trust her but remembered his teacher again. Cha asked So Young to switch plans. So Young asked if he didn't trust her, to which Cha said he wanted to do things as efficiently as possible. So Young asked if Cha had something in mind. Cha thought she was more agreeable than he thought. He explained her that what they were doing was that Cha was the one running in head-on and creating openings for her, and that was when she wants for the finishing blow. He continued, rather than running head-on every time they met a Raymond soldier, he would attract their attention and make it so that their backs would be facing towards her, and that was when she would use her skill. Cha said that he could attract their attention quickly. In a worst-case scenario, he could finish them off himself, if possible. He asked So Young about it, and she said it was not bad, and Cha would be less worried about her piercing his skull, and it also made it fairer by splitting the kills between them. Cha said that was not what he meant. So Young said that she didn't trust Cha either, and they were only together to benefit each other. There was no need to make excuses for something as small as that. She asked him to stop overreacting and work together until they could get out together. Cha thought he didn't mean it like that, and they both went on ahead. They encountered another Raman soldier, and Cha defeated it single-handedly. Cha said to So Young that she had seen too many of his moves, and asked her to get back to work as she was standing idle. She said that it was only the third monster, and he was the one who got excited in the first place. She said that Cha was faster, and she would help whenever he wanted her to. So Young thought that Cha got much stronger compared to when he helped her before. It looked like he was playing around with ramen soldiers, and was it possible to grow that much stronger in such a short amount of time? He did earn a lot of points in the Brilliant Forest, but she did as well. Was it because of the person he called his benefactor? And even if that was the case, there was a limit to how much one could do without stats. As So Young was about to figure something out, Cha interrupted her and told her that it was her turn and gave her the token. Cha asked what she was thinking about, that she didn't notice him, and if he was someone else, she would have been attacked. So Young told him not to worry and told him she was still since it was Cha. They both paused for a second, and Cha asked what she said, and she changed the topic and asked Cha if he was hungry and they should get some rest and eat. Cha asked again, and So Young burst and asked him to sit down and eat. So Young asked how much water Cha had, and she managed to bring some, but she thought it wasn't enough. Cha had one bottle. So Young asked him if he thought there would be tap water there or something. Cha asked her if she noticed the fountain on the way there. So Young asked if he really trusted the water coming out of it, and what he was going to do if they got sick from drinking it. Cha said that it looked like she didn't bring it with her. So Young was confused about what he was talking about. Cha brought out some purification powder from his pocket. He explained that most water becomes drinkable with that. Since it was pretty cheap, it was important to stock up on those. So Young said that excluding the essentials, she didn't think about anything else except her equipment and skills. Cha said that it would last her until the end of the forced hunt, and asked her to take it. So Young insisted that she had to pay, but Cha said he had a couple more anyways, and he bought a lot just in case, and they only cost about 500 points. So Young said that was outside, and here it was important since she didn't like leaving debts unpaid and she'd rather not be more indebted to him. Cha said that was the reason he was giving it to her, and after coming there, he thought a lot about trust. Cha said that he thought it was weird how she managed to get used to everything, especially when the two thugs tried to sneak up on her. She didn't hesitate to kill, and she didn't change after that either. He wondered if that would have been possible if they weren't in Haletian. He continued and said that it was a world completely separate from theirs. Maybe even how they thought changed too. However, not everything changed. So Young asked what that had to do with the situation at hand. Cha said that if it wasn't for her, he didn't think he would ponder over all that. He said that So Young was hesitant from the beginning, as if she knew what needed to be done. She had strength that he didn't possess. That was why she didn't hesitate, which made him worry that they were changing fast too. But she realized that there was a purpose in trying to protect something she believed in. Even then, nothing had changed. Cha told her that she might think that she just didn't want to be indebted, but to him it was his only source of hope in that world. Even if they had to change to survive in that world, he hoped that they could still protect what they believed to be precious to them. He asked So Young to take it since she did more than enough to deserve it. Cha added just in case. That didn't mean he fully trusted her. Trust and gratitude were two different things. So Young said she wondered why Cha was sharing such a long story. She took the bottle and said to put it to good use. So Young ate an energy capsule and she mentioned they were great, but they didn't give the same sense of satisfaction as actual meals did. Cha said that was the reason he told her to give them a try. There were plenty of people who ate rainbow snake jerky and it tasted good. So Young said she passed and asked Cha what he was looking at. Cha said that he was just checking out rankings. So Young said there was no point since he wasn't going to get on it. There were many names that were concerning. Cha thought the teacher was going pretty hard from the start. 7,800 points. Yet he was not in first place. He remembered his teacher saying that place was hell. He told Cha he had reached higher peaks than he could ever imagine, and he never told Cha because he didn't want to show off. He selected the Marauder class, and he acted accordingly. That was how he got far. The teacher said that he won't tell Cha to be evil or anything. However, it'll be hard to survive without that much determination. When the time came, he asked Cha to do what he needed, and that was the kind of place that was. And if he didn't, he would meet the same fate as him. So Young asked Cha to get going, and they should find the exit. Cha was still immersed in his thoughts about his teacher telling him to not be nice. However, that didn't mean he wanted Cha to become a villain as well. Cha vowed that within the realm of possibilities, he would become stronger and survive in his own way. He would stick with what he had been doing and continue to do his best, and he was sure that's what he really wanted to tell him. Cha and So Young had found the entrance. It had been 13 hours since they entered the tower. So Young pointed out that they had traveled about 4,400 meters. Cha was surprised that that was all they did in 13 hours. It didn't look very big from the outside, but was there really an end to that maze? Cha said that he thought the tower was just a facade. The interior space seemed to be made up of different areas connected by magic or something. So Young asked Cha to remember the coordinates. Cha said it would be nice to get close to the exit, but that would increase their chances of meeting the others. He remembered that the demon told them to not stay on the same floor for more than a day. So Young said then they had about 11 hours left. She guessed that they should think about when they should go upstairs. Cha confirmed if the time limit would restart if they went up a floor. So Young said that was right, and it would be best to hold out for as long as they could on floors that were good for farming. Cha said, although he was curious about the other floors, the ramen soldiers were pretty enticing. So Young asked Cha how did 6 hours of sleep sound. Cha said it was sufficient and that left them with 5 hours. They decided to clear the area in those 5 hours. Cha thought that subtracting the past 13 hours and the time set aside for sleep, they had 5 hours left, and if they put their backs into it, they should be able to take down 10,000 monsters per hour. That was a total of 50. He should be able to get 40 cores at the rate they had been dropping. He should be able to grow immensely. 5 hours later, both of them were exhausted, and Cha asked if they overdid it. So Young said they had been hunting for 18 hours, and she was surprised they lasted that long. Cha thought it was all worth it. They had a total of 86 tokens. That meant 86,000 points. On top of that, Cha also raised his stats with the cores that had dropped. If Cha kept going at that pace, when he used his rush skill, all his stats apart from magic power should be able to reach rank 6 by the next day. Although it was only for 5 minutes, he wouldn't lose to anyone. He knew camouflage of the jeweled lizard was the right choice. It was not yet time to tell So Young about the secret of the cores, so he had to keep her from noticing his sudden growth. They had reached the tower of the 4th floor. So Young said that the 4th floor was a mine and it was weird. Cha said it was perfect. So Young asked what was perfect and they couldn't just sleep in the open. Cha pointed out that there were plenty of things around them and they could use them to make shelter. So Young asked if that would be too obvious. A pile that was high and wide enough to hide them completely would look suspicious. Cha realized she was right and said it would be nice if they could make a pit. So Young asked what kind of pit. Cha explained an underground hole that soldiers made for ambush purposes. Since the ground was dirt, they should be able to make it. So Young taunted Cha for being in the military, but Cha cleared that he just watched the television. So Young said to take note of the time and start digging. They had to move again in 24 hours. Cha said that the coordinates were the same as on the 3rd floor. He asked to hurry and look for a place to sleep. They needed to make sure they had as much time as possible. So Young asked what Cha was going to dig with and asked if he could do it with his nails, and she didn't think that it could be done with a longsword. Cha was not sure since they were in a mine. So Young quickly grabbed Cha's shoulder and told him to be quiet and get down. Cha said that she scared him and didn't need to push him like that. So Young asked him to look on the left side of the crossroad. Cha raised his glance, and there was a fallen dwarf standing. Cha said that fallen dwarfs usually acted in groups, but why was that one alone? So Young couldn't see well in the dark. Cha said that it was alone, and they could relax. So Young asked how he could see in the dark. Cha said that his friend gave him some good lenses. Cha thought he didn't know until that moment since he never hunted in the dark before. He never thought he would be getting Karakra's help in a place like that. Cha explained that the 4th floor was a mine with a dirt floor instead of rocks, and there just happens to be a dwarf with a shovel. Everything matched so well that something felt off. Even so, Cha said they couldn't just stay idle. They rushed for an attack on the dwarf and said they would have to figure it out when things happened. The dwarf was defeated, and Cha got its shovel, and it was not as heavy as he thought, since it was entirely made up of steel. So Young said now all they had to do was dig a hole and reminded Cha that he needed to do his thing. Cha said that dwarves were too human-like for him. So Young asked if goblins didn't seem any different to her, and he was pretty picky. Cha knew she would say that, and told her to find a place to sleep. Cha pointed out a space. It was dark and off the main path, so they didn't have to worry about being ambushed. They had spent about 30 minutes finding that place. Cha asked to make sure So Young spread the soil evenly when she dug to not leave a trace. Cha asked how many hours of sleep they needed. So Young said that if she could, she would sleep the entire day, but for the time being 5 hours were fine. The hole was sufficient enough, and Cha asked to gather some stuff around it. They had to find something to act as a cover for the pit, too. So Young pointed out some of the mine carts and wooden crates should be good enough. So Young said that it had turned out to be a lot better than she thought, and one would never notice it if they didn't know it was there. Cha said that would be perfect as a base if they didn't have the 24-hour limit. So Young told Cha to sleep, and they had spent too much time making it. Cha asked if So Young was sure that she could get up in 4 hours, and they didn't even have an alarm clock. So Young said that was what they had been doing since they got there, waking up without an alarm clock. Cha said just in case whoever woke up early should wake the other one up. They both went down their holes, and Cha thought it felt damp under there, and it was not the time to complain about where he was sleeping. Living a life where waking up early without an alarm was the norm, and that's what Cha had been doing. He never would be able to do that in the past. Cha fell asleep and dreamt about the cold moment he had with So Young, which woke him up after some time. Cha wondered why he had such a dream, and it was affecting his mood. Cha got out and realized they had not been discovered yet. There was no one around, and they were right on time too to get going. The nap was pretty uncomfortable, and Cha never thought he would miss the shack. Cha knocked on So Young's minecart to wake her up. After a few knocks, So Young came out with her sword pointing towards Cha's face. Cha asked what was wrong. So Young said that it was nothing, and it was natural for her to be on her guard, and looking at Cha's face, she guessed nothing happened. They scanned the area around and asked if they both were sure no one was around. So Young asked about what the guy said about the monsters resetting every day, and she wondered what they would have that day. Cha said whatever it was, as long as they dropped lots of tokens, it would be fine. Cha wondered what monsters would it be that time. They spotted ramen soldiers again. So Young said that it was good that they were monsters those two were familiar with, but there seemed to be one more today. She said that participants might really die there. Dealing with ramen soldiers was going to be difficult when there were 3 or more of them. Cha said that just meant they had to become stronger as soon as possible. Cha activated his 2 skills and rushed to attack while So Young tried to stop him. While attacking, Cha wonders that at his current level, he would only be able to take down 2 of them at the most. Even if So Young were to help him, it would be hard to take down all 3 as it was a lethal skill that was only used when there was an open chance. That was why he must take the opportunity to grow stronger, and those ramen soldiers were his chance. So Young was just standing there looking at Cha, wondering if he killed both Ramas in an instant, and he got stronger again. Both of the soldiers had cores, and Cha said that it was a stretch to call that breakfast, but it was actually not bad while So Young was just standing there blank. So Young asked to head out. Cha, why so soon? So Young said that they ought to be gathering information about the other floors. They had to see what other monsters there might be, too. Cha said she wasn't wrong, but the time was just 6. It had only been 12 hours since they had come to the 4th floor, and there was no need to rush. So Young said that time wasn't the issue. They had enough skills anyway. The real challenge there was to survive and get stronger. To do that, they needed information, and they won't get that just by hunting monsters. Cha thought she wasn't wrong, and they had already fulfilled their quota, and that was the perfect time to leave. However, if he kept going like that, he was sure he could get to rank 6 health by the end of the forced hunt. He should also be able to get all the other stats to at least 50% and magic power to at least 30%. While information was important, the best course of action was to get stronger, and he would have to be stubborn about that. Cha said to So Young that she was not wrong, but since they had the coordinates for the stairs, why should they abandon those familiar prey and move on so early? So Young asked what if they encountered monsters they didn't know about the next day, and it would be nice to learn more about how the other teams were faring. Cha told So Young that she had fulfilled her quota, but he was still short of 14. He said while it might not seem like much, they never knew what was going to happen next, and asked So Young wouldn't it be better if he completed it first. So Young said that Cha really must like hunting ramen soldiers. Cha said that was not it, but these ramen soldiers were the monsters they were currently the most familiar with. They couldn't keep staying there anyway, so he asked if it was strange for him to want to stay for as long as they could to hunt as many of them as possible. Cha wanted to make things as easy as possible. Once he fulfilled his quota, they could keep moving without having to worry about getting enough kills. So Young agreed but asked to move as soon as Cha got the skills, and she repeated that they needed information. Before the difficulty level rose, they needed to learn as much as they could. She was thinking that it would have been better if they'd done so from the first day. So Young thought that was the best she could do, and it wasn't going to be good to let that argument drag on, and she had no choice. So Young told him to hurry up and get it done. Cha sensed something was off looking at So Young. Cha was done with his quota, and So Young was annoyed that they killed 17 more than they needed, and it was already 2 hours. Cha said that was inevitable when they were still getting used to cooperating with each other, and asked weren't she glad about getting more tokens. Cha wondered if he got too excited about becoming stronger, and should have taken his time to hunt. So Young started running and asked Cha if he was done, then he should stop wasting time and follow her. They spotted another ramen soldier, and Cha started running towards it again, and So Young got angry. While they were arguing, Cha asked So Young to take a look at something. They were staring at a blank wall, and Cha pointed out that the stairs were supposed to be there. They were at the exact coordinates as well. They figured out that the demon didn't tell them that the stairs reset every day. Cha said that they were right on time, and if they continued to fight with the ramen soldiers, or encountered the other participants, they might run out of time. So Young said to focus on looking for the stairs, and avoid unnecessary combat, and told Cha to go there without wasting any time. Cha thought that he had to get more cores, but they needed to look for the stairs first. They encountered multiple ramen soldiers ahead, but defeated them with no worry. They had about half an hour left, but they could find the stairs. So Young wonders if Cha was a hunter since his stamina was amazing, and if it weren't for him, she wouldn't have been able to move about so quickly. She couldn't figure him out. He looked like an idiot, but he's also very dependable, and one thing was sure, he was growing at an amazing rate. She sensed from the beginning that he was pretty strong, but they were still on par with each other. But that was no longer the case. Both his speed and strength had increased, and he could easily take down 2 ramen soldiers on his own. She figured out that the secret might be consuming the monster parts, and wondered if that was the secret, then he wouldn't share it so easily. Cha pointed out they had found the stairs, and said that meant they would have to look for the stairs again after a day. So Young said that was probably the case, and it seemed like it was done on purpose to make things more confusing. Monsters, the corpses of the participants, and all objects without an owner were rested every day. In addition, the maximum amount of time participants could spend on one floor was 24 hours from the moment they arrived on that floor. Those who had a bad sense of time would surely get confused. So Young said that they should go down to learn more about the other floors. Cha agreed and said it was important for them to have a sense of time, and asked if they should keep time with respect to when they first arrived on the 4th floor. So Young thought that it was weird and he would ask to hunt for a bit longer, and remembered what Cha told her about being trustworthy. They both had reached the 2nd floor. It looked like nothing had changed in appearance, and the monsters had been reset. So Young pointed out some monsters. They were gnolls, and they were not common. They were found near the mountains, and they howled for more of their kind when they thought they were about to lose. It would be a pain to deal with them in a closed space like that. Cha said since they were just weaklings and such a headache to deal with, it would be better to avoid them. What really bothered Cha was the fact they didn't have cores, and wondered if only ramen soldiers were the only ones. Cha asked if there was only one type of monster on each floor, and that would be 4 types of monsters in total. So Young said there were also fallen dwarves that used ice weapons, so technically there were 5 types. Cha thought 4 floors and 4 monsters of them, had identified 3 of them, and he hoped the last one had cores. They both heard something and wondered what it was. So Young asked Cha if they should keep going down. Cha said that they should check the noise out, and it would be good for them to know what it was. At the 2nd floor of the Tower of Time, Cha and So Young arrived, and Cha pointed out that the interior theme was really inconsistent, and why was there a castle inside the tower? So Young could still hear that sound, and wondered where it was coming from. Cha asked to find its source. So Young said there was still quite a lot of time until the stairs and the monsters reset. Even if they slept for the same amount of time as before, they would have enough time. Cha suggested to look around for a couple of hours. So Young said they still needed to look around the 1st floor, so they should be quick. So Young used her sword to put marks on the wall to save time. She said besides that she had to make sure she was paying attention. After all, it seemed like Cha didn't even memorize the coordinates of the stairs. Cha thought that it had happened again, and he always slipped at his crucial moments, but it was not bad to have someone by his side to cover for his mistakes, and it was his first time having someone like that. So Young heard something else, and Cha figured out what it was. The sound seemed to be from the penalty for exceeding 24 hours. The source of the sound should be the watch they were wearing, and it was the only thing they received when they entered. Cha asked if they should go and check it out, since they needed to know the type of monsters that were there, and the identity of the group that was under attack too. So Young agreed, but asked to not get involved. They took a peek at what was happening. It was Yungchul's group, and they were being swarmed with monsters. Yungchul wondered where the monsters were coming from. He couldn't believe they were struggling when there were 8 of them there. They were too far from the stairs, and it was a mistake not to return on time. He wondered if the demons didn't tell them that the stairs would be reset. The clock kept ticking, but the zombies kept coming at them when they thought they could take a breather. They were at their limit and needed to find the stairs quickly. Youngkul announced to the group that he would lead the charge, and he didn't have time to take care of those who lagged behind, and advised them to do their best and follow closely. So Young said that she had a feeling it would be Youngchul. They were completely surrounded, and it seemed like there were 40 zombies there. Cha said that the zombies were all heading for the passageway, and he didn't feel safe there either. So Young said she knew Youngchul was strong, but he had a lot of skills too. 3 of them, and she guessed he would survive. The 3 skills were Coordinated Explosion, Weapon Enhancement, and Shadow Shield. Seeing that he was less injured than the others, it was possible that he had skin strengthening too. Cha thought that the rumors about Youngchul being the Black Dragon clan's hope for the future isn't an exaggeration. It looked like he had received all the support available. Seeing that he was using all of his skills to fight, his magic stats must have been pretty high. Youngchul used Gluttony of Mage Ramaha, which shocked the both of them. So Young said that was a settler exclusive skill. It was a skill that sealed the stats of opponents to increase one's own for a period of time. As any stat may be boosted temporarily, it was a skill that was often used also great for creating openings. Cha thought that skill would be a pain to deal with, especially since it would limit how he used his own skills. Even so, they still had a chance of winning. Just by looking at the current battle, he could tell that they had a chance. So Young asked to head out, and at that rate it looked like they would die on their own. Cha asked if they should help them out. So Young asked if he was crazy, to which Cha said he was serious. So Young said what he had in mind. Youngchul was still fighting, and he wondered if there were too many of them. He couldn't believe he was being surrounded by zombies of all things. As soon as he spotted an opening, they would shut it down. He wondered if that was how he was going to go down. He had tried his best to hold out till the end, but that was proving to be impossible. He thought to get himself away, then try to join a different team if he could. The problem was he didn't know where the stairs were either. Cha barged in and made it look like he was in trouble. Youngchul wondered did he come there because he heard the noise. He thought if Cha joined, then they might have a chance. Youngchul told Cha to lure some of the zombies to himself, and he would let him join the team. Cha started running and said why would he do that and he would end up dead. Cha shouted in the air and asked someone to go to the stairs since there were too many zombies. Everyone heard Cha and they started running to him and they asked Cha to take them with him. Cha told them to go to hell, which made Youngchul mad. Youngchul's head started to hurt from using many skills. Cha was on the run, and Youngchul was insisting on catching him. Cha made it look like he couldn't even kill a single zombie, and he ran away from Youngchul. Youngchul regrouped and asked if everyone was there. Youngchul thought that given that they could have all died, that was good enough, and all they needed to do was to find the stairs. Youngchul took a glance, and the stairs were right in front of them. Everyone let their guard down in relief, but Youngchul said that they still needed to get off that floor. They had arrived at the first floor of the Tower of Time. Youngchul wondered if the inside of the tower was just so random. More importantly, where was Cha? Youngchul asked everyone to look for him, but one of them said that they needed to regroup as some of them were injured and needed treatment and spent some time resting. They were in no shape to fight. Youngchul figured that he had no choice but to look for Cha later, and asked the group to find a place to rest and get away from the entrance to avoid meeting other teams. Back on the second floor, Cha's prediction had come true, since he knew they would go down a floor since they were being chased. Cha kept bragging about his brilliant plan to So-young while she was working. Cha asked her why she didn't wait, and she could have been surrounded by zombies. So-young told him if he couldn't hear that. Seemed like there was another team that had gone over the time limit. The zombies would be drawn there for now. Another person swarmed by zombies had been killed, and Cha and So-young were looking, wondering if it was too late for him. So-young said that it was difficult to get through them and they would approach after the zombies disperse. Although not as many as Youngchul's team, that team defeated quite a lot of monsters too. Cha said at that rate he would be able to store all the loot. It looked like they had collected all the tokens and all that was left was some weapons and a few watches. Cha asked So-young if she didn't need the watches, to which she said she didn't care about the rankings, and asked Cha if he was sure he didn't want any protective gear. He said he had no use of gloves and he was not too keen on scarves either, and that was good enough for him, and So-young could keep the rest. Cha said to look at how many skills were in the watches. There were a total of 629 skills there. Cha had 134 skills that made a grand total of 763 skills. Cha looked at the rankings, and the 10th place had 5,000 plus skills, and he had a long way to go, but he still had 7 days left, and it was not impossible to get into the rankings. There was no need to shed blood with his hands either. He vowed that he would take Youngchul out. Cha suspected that he would take over the other teams with his advantage in numbers, and also eventually kill his own teammates to claim their skills. Cha didn't have to see it to know that it would happen, and that the value of his teammates was to Youngchul. However, as his teammates were not complete fools, they would try to defend themselves. so there was a good chance that he wouldn't be in great condition. That was Cha's chance, even if there was no damage incurred. Cha told So Young that they finished everything that needed to be done, and they should get some sleep since he was exhausted. So Young said that it was 8:30 at that time. They arrived on the floor 3 hours ago. Although Cha went down to the first floor, that didn't make much difference. Cha said that they should have about 5 hours until the next reset, and asked if they should go take a look downstairs as planned. Cha looked over the information they had about the floors. The first floor was a cave. There were plenty of rocks to hide behind, and it was dark as well. It was a good place to make a pit. Aslo, it just so happened that there were dwarves on that floor that they could get a shovel from. Cha hoped ramen soldiers appeared again after the reset, as zombies had no cores and that was his only choice. He wondered if the resets were completely random. If they were under the assumption that the monsters were randomly generated, his chances were 1 in 3, and that was not bad. He'll have to keep that in mind as he proceeds. They returned to the first floor of the Tower of Time. So Young asked to look for a dwarf with a shovel. While they were at that, they could look for a good spot to make their pits too. Cha said that they won't bump into them since that place was really big, but Youngchul and his team were on that floor, so they had to be careful. They found a shovel and dug a hole. So Young asked that apart from Youngchul's team, there were 2 other teams. Cha said he remembered there was a Chinese team and a Japanese team, and there should be around 6 or 7 people. So Young said as there weren't any noises except on the second floor, it looked like the other teams did not go over the time limit. Cha said she was right, and he didn't think about that. He figured that the people who died were those 4 on the second floor, and they were lucky to have collected all of their kills. The time limit included fights when teams met, but as the space was just too big, it was hard to even bump into each other. He had a feeling that there would be a final that would force all of them to gather. At that time, the best scenario would be the other teams killing each other off. Now that Cha thought about it, it was better to have a small team like theirs. They would stay hidden, then come out to defeat the remaining team. That would be the best scenario to get a good ranking, Cha snapped, and wondered what was wrong with him, and he was starting to think like a demon. So Young asked Cha if he wanted to go back home. Cha said of course, and why else was he doing all that? So Young said that after thinking about that, she still thought her chances of doing that were low. There were plenty of people who had been there longer than them, some of whom were incredibly strong. There were even people who had been there for 13 years, and she had already given up hope. It was scary to think that she couldn't go back, but what was scarier was at some point, she stopped missing home. How to survive and kill was all she thought about. She didn't even hesitate to kill other people. She didn't trust anyone. Everyone was a potential enemy. Even so, sometimes that living hell was fun. She had been wondering why she became like that. That was when she came to that conclusion. It was not just their strength that had changed. Something inside their head had changed too. So she had recently changed her goal. She didn't want to live aimlessly without a goal. The one who brought all of them in that place, the Demon King Laishan, she was going to find him. She wanted to ask him why he brought people there and turned them into killing machines. She wanted to hear his reasons for doing that, and how he intended to take responsibility, and if he didn't answer, she would beat him until he did. She said that it would be difficult to get that strong, but if she was lucky, perhaps she could give him a good slap. At the very least, she likes to hurl vulgarities at his face. Cha's face lit up and said that was much cooler than just struggling to survive. Cha wondered if he thought about that too, but he just didn't understand what Laishan was after and why he prepared that game. But if they could get stronger, it would be too boring if their goal was to merely survive. Playing the game in ways its developer didn't intend it was what games did. They would keep getting stronger and defeat the final boss. Cha wondered if he got carried away. It was not like it was an actual game. He didn't think there was even such a thing as a final boss in that world. One thing was clear, he was the only one who had changed. Everyone there, at some point or the other, would come to accept the death of others as a part of the game. So Young told him before that she knew she was not the only one who had changed, but it still scared her. She was frightened to realize that she wasn't herself anymore, and that was when she met Cha. At first, she thought he was a psycho. His actions and words were different from that of everyone else, so at some point she found herself wanting just to be like him. Whenever she looked at Cha, she was reminded of her old friends. Cha asked what if his action and words were just an act. So Young said that of course she wasn't saying that she completely trusted him, but that was not because of him, but herself. She couldn't even trust herself. She knew he was strong. That was why, although it might be a selfish request, she hoped that he could stand by what he cherished and saw things through until the end. Cha asked why she was suddenly talking about those things. She said she felt like telling him then, and it was a feeling she got. Cha wondered if she didn't have someone else to talk about those things with. He thought if they had really changed, Laishan might be the reason. No matter how hard they tried, it was possible that they might be killed by a monster before they would even get to stand before him. They might even change more than they already had, and become entirely different people. Even so, until the last moment, he won't forget the feeling of rage. A group approached, and one of the members, Ito, had a feeling that there was someone around. The group asked if he had smelled something and were they nearby. One of them figured they must have just passed through there recently, and they should keep their guard up as they proceeded, and they could just kill them when they met. Cha and So-young waited for them to leave, then came out of the hole. It was day 3. They had 18 hours and 20 minutes left. So-young said if it wasn't for the exit reset, that should be more than enough time. Cha asked what kind of monster it would be at that time, and he hoped it would be a Ramen soldier. So-young said that Cha seemed pretty calm, and what if there were 3 of them? Cha said it would be tough, but it was all right. They were there, so they should be fine. They spotted the Ramen soldiers. Cha said it was nice, but there were really 3 of them, and asked So-young if she thought there was one more for each day that passed. So-young said if there were 3 or 4 or more, she thought their only option was to run. Cha asked to go and deal with them, and they should be able to take them down easily. Cha said that he would go ahead and stir them up, and asked So-young to jump in when she saw an opening. Cha thought he could handle up to 3 of those guys, and that situation couldn't be any better for him. All that was left was to get stronger. They both killed the monsters, and Cha said that was easy. So-young wondered if Cha got faster, and that wasn't something that could be explained with having experience. And the reason for his growth must be related to that. While Cha was wondering if earning tokens was nice, but it had been some time since he last consumed a core, he was interrupted by So-young, who asked him if it was skill. Cha asked what she meant. She said that his snack, him eating a part of their heart, that was the reason for his growth. Cha thought that was it. He was sure she had been meaning to ask. It was not like he had only eaten 1 or 2 cores. He had to tell her about it sooner or later. So-young asked what was wrong, and he didn't want to tell her. Cha said that was not it. He just wanted to know why she was asking about it. So-young said that it was because she wanted to get stronger, and it was a skill that was activated when eating. Cha thought there was indeed a skill like that, a skill that was activated when eating something. The only common thing was growth. Although what one could eat, how they would grow, and the stats they could gain were pretty limited, as it made it a little easier to get stronger. It was considered a precious and extremely rare skill. So-young asked why was Cha acting like he never heard of it. Cha thought although it was difficult for a first year to obtain that skill, he could use that as an excuse. He would use that to gloss things over. He wondered if there was a need to do that, and wasn't she a good ally, and wasn't it fine to trust her? He remembered his teacher again. It was like he was standing behind him, telling him it was when one started to put trust in others that it was the most dangerous. They would drop their guard and talk about unnecessary thing. He asked Cha if he had times when after some drinks, he started to talk openly with someone she's just become friends with, only to regret that later. On Earth, he would just feel embarrassed, and that would be the end of that. But that was not the case there. Even the smallest mistake could lead to his death. The information regarding the cores was his greatest weapon, and no one but the 2 of them should know about them. Cha told So-young that it was because of that skill, and even though it was only by a little, it improved a random stat. So-young said she knew it. Otherwise, there was no way he would eat those hearts on purpose. So-young asked just in case about where and how Cha got that skill form. Cha said he got it from the field, and he was just lucky. So-young said she thought there might be an effortless way to get stronger. She asked Cha to take what he needed and move. Since there were ramen soldiers, she asked if he wanted to look for more, and they had to search for the exit too. Cha wondered how she accepted the excuse so easily. Although she didn't know the truth about the cores, she definitely knew he was hiding something. His teacher was adamant that he couldn't share that secret hastily. He was sure that So-young was someone who would do anything to get stronger, but he would have to see if they could trust each other, just like how he did with his teacher, and he had to live with that lie for the time being. As they moved forward, they encountered more ramen soldiers. Cha said that So-young had gotten faster too, to which she said there was no point in complaining and he should hurry and eat. As Cha consumes a core, his stamina reaches rank 6. Cha thought he didn't know if that was the reason, but he felt stronger and full of energy. So-young said that she knew he was excited, but they had to go since they didn't find the exit. Cha felt really refreshed, like having a good night's sleep, and if that went on, he didn't think he needed to sleep for a while. They both found the stairs. Cha asked what they should do since there was still a bit of time until the reset, and suggested if they hunted more in the vicinity. So-young asked if they could get some rest. She was not a hunter, and unlike Cha, she couldn't heal up by eating. Cha said that he didn't realize and apologized and said to go to another floor and get some rest. He said to go to the mine on the 4th floor. It should be better with the softer floor and their pits. Cha thought he got too carried away and was only thinking about himself, and he had to be more considerate. So-young said that she needed to sleep for a bit longer that time, and if that was all right. Cha asked for how long. She said 7 hours or so. She needed to sleep at least that much to match his pace. Cha agreed, and they went into the pits. Cha couldn't fall asleep, and his fatigue was completely gone. He wondered if he should go hunt by himself, and he should be fine if he played it safe. According to his teacher, Cores from rank 7 monsters would only improve stats that were at rank 7. In other words, all his stats apart from stamina would go up. He should take that chance to advance his magic power stat while he could. That was the one with the slowest rate of growth. As the cooldown of his rush skill had decreased significantly, he would be fine by himself as long as he took time to reset in between. Cha went out and found some monsters. He decided to start by redistributing his stamina stat, but for some reason he couldn't. Cha wondered what went wrong, but it was not like that it was a real game, so there was no reason for him to bug out. He would take the chance to see how much he could do without using any skills. He beheaded the first 2 monsters with ease, and proceeded to kill the third one. Cha figured that wasn't bad since one of them had a shovel instead of a weapon. It looked like 3 dwarves was the limit of what he could handle. He would have to start practicing without relying on his skills. It was going to be difficult to fight if he couldn't redistribute his stats. He found the reason on his stat screen, and it said that Cha could redistribute the value of his stats to another of the same rank for 1 hour. Cha realized he should have remembered such an important detail. He couldn't redistribute his stats because stamina was the only one at rank 6. He wouldn't be able to use his highest stamina stats anymore, which made things complicated. He couldn't just drag So Young everywhere either. It was going to be tiring, but he'll have to increase the time he spends hunting alone. He could still use the rush of the fearful Baroque. He would like to try his luck looking for ramen soldiers, but he would be in trouble if he ran into other people around the stairs if he was by himself. Redistribution of his stats without using his stamina points, and hunting without using any skills, he would train until it was time for the next reset. So Young was having a nightmare about someone trying to kill her. She heard Cha from outside asking her if she was awake. She answered that she was awake and would be out soon. She checked the time and she slept for 7.5 hours. She asked Cha when he woke up. He said he didn't sleep and he tried to but couldn't. His stamina had advanced to rank 6. Perhaps that was why his fatigue was gone and it was an effect of ranking up. So Young asked when that happened and Cha said that sometime along the way. So Young spotted a bloody axe laying around and asked Cha if he went hunting. Cha said he didn't go far and made sure he was careful and started to explain how he defeated them and offered her some food. So Young burst with anger and asked what was wrong with Cha. What if he slipped up or met people from other teams? If something had happened to him, it would be hard for her to survive too. She said to be more careful no matter how strong he was. There was a limit to what he could do alone. She asked to pay attention to his partner. Cha apologized for his mistake. So Young thought she had messed up by calling him her partner. More importantly, she wondered if he was really hunting all 3 ramen soldiers by himself. He didn't look like he was lying, but she figured he had no reason to lie. Cha apologized again. So Young asked for food as she was hungry and asked Cha for the jerky he was eating. So Young thought that she was not 100% sure. After all, there was nothing in that place that could be trusted. However, that time, she wondered if she had met someone worthy of her trust. Cha and So Young came to the stairs and found a group taking a break near the entrance. Cha said that they would run into another team easily like that, and what was their leader thinking? So Young said that showed how confident he was, or perhaps he wanted to meet another team. And if they were aiming for rankings, then that would make sense. She pointed out a person to be the leader. Cha said he did look strong, but he didn't like the look in his eyes. A person from the group asked Haran if they moved somewhere else, and it was better to get proper rest during break time. Haran said that it was fine and someone had to be on guard anyway. A woman came along and told Ito he sounded like a really dedicated leader, and she thought those people were merely tools for him to get a high ranking. The woman's name was Renhua. Haran said that she should stay quiet if she didn't want to die. He didn't want the team to feel like they were being overworked, so he had been making sure that they were keeping at a decent pace. Everything was proceeding with great care. The crux of that tower was the rankings, not survival. They needed to make sure that they grew stronger through that. Of course, there was a limit to what one could do alone. Only the 3 of them were truly a team, and they should be able to reap ample rewards. To achieve that, they needed to carry out their plans perfectly. He grabbed Renhua by the neck and told her if she caused the slightest issue to their plans, even if it was her. He wondered if he should reconsider, and asked her if she would not like that. Renhua told Haran that was why he was so interested, and reassured him that she wanted things to go smoothly too. Cha and So Young were hiding close, and wondered if they all were psychos. Cha said it was clear that Haran was after a ranking as well. So Young asked if they should wait an hour until they left, or should they go hunting somewhere farther away. Cha thought that they were bound to meet them eventually. So Young said that it would be troublesome if the gnolls started to howl again, and they should get some rest. She noticed the smirk on Cha's face. She asked why he was smiling like that, to which he said he was just smiling. So Young asked what he wanted to do. Cha whispered something in her ear. So Young said that he was crazy and they could just wait until they left. Cha explained that they had to fight eventually. As long as they were focused on climbing the ranks, they would try to kill everyone else at the stairs. He pointed out Ito and said he seemed smart and strong too, and would be difficult to deal with later. That was their chance. That method would only work when those gnolls were around. Cha grabbed So-young's hand and said he was sure that the two of them could do it, and it may have sounded like empty words, but he asked to be trusted with that plan. He said it was 100% possible because she was there. So-young told Cha to not grab her hand like that again, and he better take care of himself if things went wrong because she would run away. The Howran group started moving, and they wondered how many teams were on that floor since they kept hearing howling. By looking at the watches, they were quiet. It didn't seem like they had exceeded the time limit, so what was it? Howran thought it was quiet during their break, but all the howling started 15 minutes after they decided to start moving again. He wondered if something was wrong. In amazement like that, it was hard to pinpoint where the howling was coming from too. Howran figured it out and told everyone it was a trap and told them to find a safe place, but it was already too late. Cha was followed by a mob of gnolls coming straight towards Howran's location. The details of Cha's plans were, they would wait until they were done resting to see where they would go. Then, if they entered an area they were familiar with that didn't have many options to escape, that was when Cha and So-young would go at them with the horde. So-young had left marks at the places they had passed, and the area was pretty much memorized. That was why Cha needed her. The plan would only work if they were quick on their feet and knew the area well. With their current stamina, they should be able to gather a large horde, and before they got a chance to understand what was happening, they would fall. Ido told everyone they needed to go somewhere else. One of the members asked if he was sure it was a trap and the gnolls were gathered up at another team. Howran got angry and screamed at them. Why couldn't they hear the howling was getting closer, and someone was luring the gnolls over there? It was too late, and Cha was speeding towards them, pretending to need help. Ido thought Cha was the one behind that, and he knew that he was pretending to want help from them. Although there weren't many gnolls behind him, they were howling non-stop, and they needed to get out of there. Meanwhile, So-young was coming from the other end with more gnolls. That was the important part, to trap them from both sides. Cha slid from between the group, leaving them trapped. They were shaken at his speed, but Ido asked them to not panic and give chase, and there was bound to be an exit where Cha went. But they were trapped. Howran had no intention of dying like that, and asked everyone if they remembered the coordinates, and they would force their way down the stairs. The group struggled, but only Renha and Ido managed to make it to the stairs where Cha and So-young were waiting for them. Cha said they were faster than he thought. Howran said to not expect mercy from him. Cha said he didn't ask for any. Before Howran and Renha reached the stairs, only 3 of them were left, and they barely managed to escape the horde. But they kept coming, and there were too many of them. Howran thought that he wouldn't die there, until he plunged the knife into Cha's head. Chen was the 3rd person with them, and they kept resisting the horde. Renha asked Chen if he was okay, to which he said it was nothing to him. If they kept going that way, they should reach the stairs. Chen was killed moments after, and Howran asked Renha to pull herself together and they needed to head out. They had made it to the stairs and Howran's arm was badly damaged. He said that it was just a scratch and it would heal with some healing ointment. They were the only 2 who survived, and all Ido wanted to do was to kill Cha. They had met Cha and So-young as Cha started to taunt them. Cha coldly said that they were mad because their friend died and weren't planning on killing them all anyway, and used them to climb up the rankings. Howran said not to compare Chen with others since he was brother to them. Cha said that only his friend's life was precious and not the whole team, and told him that he would be the one killing. Renha said that she would chop them up and rub their face. So-young asked them to not be innocent, and she almost felt sorry for them, but she came to her senses. So-young and Renha started the duel, while Cha was standing admiring So-young's swordsmanship. If it wasn't because they were in that place, a brute like him wouldn't stand a chance against her. Howran said, before he killed Cha, he wanted to know who he was. Apart from Young Chul and Shibata of the Japanese team, he didn't factor anyone else in his calculations. Cha said he didn't see the point in answering, and more importantly, how was Ido planning on killing him when he couldn't do anything about his trap? He was the one who was going to die. Cha was waiting for him the whole time. Howran admitted that he fell into the trap. However, Cha made a mistake in the last step of his plan. The duel between Cha and Howran also started. They both complemented each other's strength. Cha was finding it hard to break his defenses even after tiring him out, and wondered if he had a martial arts background too. Howran said it looked like all Cha could do was rely on his strength. The weapon Howran was holding, the dual-wield bijou, wasn't an easy weapon to use in the first place, and it seemed like Cha had seen a lot of movies. Cha locked Howran's sword between his nails and saw an opening, but Howran managed to dodge the attack. Cha thought he was able to counter even with dealing with a swarm of gnolls. He wondered what he would have been like in his original condition. He thought he would be the strongest amongst the people of the same year. Howran looked over and saw Renwa was at her limit too, and he needed to back her up. Howran said there was no point in dragging the fight on, and asked Cha to use his best move and finish it with the next blow. They both charged up. Howran had an idea of Cha's style from what he'd seen, a close combat fighter who relied on stats and instincts. Seemed like that was all to him. He was sure Muyuk would try to come at him after using a physical enhancement skill. People like him were weak to long-ranged attacks at odd timings. Even if Cha dodged, he won't be able to change his momentum fast enough. At that moment, Ito would finish him with a full frontal sword aura slash. On the other hand, Cha realized Howran was strong and he was not sure if he could win. He couldn't take those chances. He needed to be 100% sure he could win. When the time came, he needed to do it. That moment was it. They both charged for the attack. Howran was the first to attack. Cha dodged and went in the air. Threw an axe he was hiding behind his back, which was dodged by Howran. Howran told Cha that was too weak to be his finishing move. The axe Cha threw wasn't aimed at Howran, but it hit Renwa in the head, killing her. Ido lost his guard and Cha took his chance and killed him too. Cha said all the fighting was making him sore. So Young asked Cha if he was fine with her talking about the kills. Cha said since it was a surprise ambush, and it was all because of her that the plan worked, and she should feel free and take whatever she wanted. Cha asked if she was ready to move, since they didn't have much time left until the reset. So Young thought there was nothing wrong with what Cha was doing. In Halishan, one did anything and everything to survive, and they must kill to avoid being killed. His strategy was efficient. Both diverting their attention and reducing their numbers played out as planned, but she couldn't shake the terrible feeling. Moving a bit back in time a little, on the 4th floor, Cha was dealing with Howran. Young Chul was fighting another group. They got 2 of Young Chul's members in an instant. They were pretty skilled too, and yet they died before they could even react. If Young Chul wasn't there to stop them, more of them could have been killed. Young Chul recognized one of the members of the other group as Shibata of Musashi. The ones with him were Aoki and Itu, and they were no small fry either. Young Chul's camp started to panic. He told them to pull themselves together. Young Chul thought even though he was talking with such gusto, it was going to get bad if things went out like that. Judging from their condition, he could tell that those guys haven't had any hard fights yet too. Shibata said Young Chul was tougher than he thought. Thanks to Ito's sense of smell, he thought they would try springing an ambush for once. Itu asked what they were going to do. Shibata said they won't lose, but they should keep their guard up to minimize any potential loses. Young Chul said to Shibata he didn't mind fighting, but could he talk to him for a second? Shibata asked what he wanted. Young Chul said he was sure Shibata knew he was strong. His ambush failed, and he won't be able to walk away without talking any losses. Young Chul said that he could let bygones be bygones, and asked about making a temporary alliance. He asked if Shibata hadn't met Haran and his team yet, and he was sure they were hunting as they spoke. It would be hard for them on their own, but it would be a different story if they worked together and they could fight each other after that. Shibata declined, and said he heard stories about Young Chul. He could already tell he was plotting to kill Shibata once he got the chance. He told Young Chul to fight, and they wanted to kill them. Young Chul said Shibata was crazier than he thought, and asked the group that he would take care of Shibata and Itu. They should do whatever they could to take care of the last one. Meanwhile, Cha gave So Young a butterfly. She asked when he got something like that. Cha said it wasn't something that suited him, so she should take it. So Young wondered if it was pretty for something that came out from a place like that. Cha thought as there wasn't enough time, they left a lot behind. But still managed to get a lot. They had 1 skill ring and a leather belt to be equipped on the waist. But those things were secondary and the inventory was bad. A bag that could hold items that were much larger than itself to think they would get something so expensive. Haran and his team might have been very rich. Although it was not very large, V could still carry the tokens and the watch and still have space. Haran's team killed 1847 monsters. Combined with what they had, they were over 3,000 kills. If Cha could manage 2,500 more kills, he should be able to make it to the rankings easily. Also, as he had over 3,200 tokens, if they converted them into points, that would be around 3 million, and just thinking about that put him in a good mood. Cha's dreams were interrupted by So Young. She put the butterfly in her hair and asked Cha how she looked. Cha said that it looked good. There was an awkward silence, and then So Young slapped him for looking at her and saying something else. Cha said even if it looked good on her, her actions had ruined the effect. So Young asked him to get some sleep if he was done sorting things out. She was dead tired from running all day. Back in the Young Chul area, everyone from his group had died. Shibata and the others were stronger than he thought. It was a miracle he managed to survive. Young Chul had to think about how he was going to get through the remaining time. He had enough medicine so he should heal up and get some rest. He had to lay low and move quietly for the rest of the time. He didn't know about Cha, but he needed to avoid the others. He needed to reduce monster encounters as much as he could. Young Chul vowed that he would survive and kill them all, and he was going to be the last one standing. The Shibata group was sitting. Aoki asked about revenge. Shibata said that they needed to rest first. Aoki said she wanted to kill someone. Shibata reminded her about their plan. They had agreed that they were going to take control of the stairs to the 5th floor on day 9 and kill everyone who approached. Aoki said that was the problem. If Haoran was still alive and in good shape, they might not win. They might not be able to kill Youngchul either. Aoki said thanks to Shibata's plan, they lost 3 or their allies, and even allowed him to run away far enough that Itu couldn't smell them anymore. Aoki was not asking them to take responsibility, but at the very least, Aoki wanted to avenge their allies when she still could. Shibata got angry and grabbed Aoki by the collar and warned her who she thought she was. He told her if she didn't have the confidence to do it alone, then she should just stay quiet. Aoki said as their leader, she was hoping that he would at least give it a try and she expected too much from him. She told him to stop making those pointless threats. She had enough confidence that she could beat Shibata at least. Itu stopped the both of them and asked what was the point in fighting each other. It was times like that they needed to be united. He stopped Aoki too and said that his nose was working fine and he would make sure to keep checking as they hunted. Aoki left and said to reorganize as she went to find a place to rest. Shibata said what was with her attitude, and did she really think she was part of the Yakuza or something? Itu said that it was good that she had a strong sense of camaraderie and asked Shibata to understand her a little. After that, more time had passed. Youngchul did his best to lay low, making finding the stairs his only task. As soon as he found the stairs, he would change floors, rest, and move on quickly. While Team Shibata managed to find traces of Youngchul, they weren't able to catch him. As there was no way of knowing where Youngchul or the other teams were, everyone was on the edge, even though they did not show it. And with that, it was the end of the 8th day. Cha pointed out that it was really quiet in front and the same went for the back. So Young said that she didn't want to go to another floor just in time for the date to change, but a certain someone who was obsessed with ramen soldiers decided to waste time. Cha said he already apologized. It was worth the effort. Apart from magic, all stats were at rank 6. That was a lot faster than Cha expected. Although it was a pity about his magic stat, he was very satisfied with it. Cha said it was already day 9, and he never thought he would wish for more time there. The floor started to shake suddenly, and they wondered what was going on. There was a huge gap in the stairs, and they both fell in it. It seemed that it was another rule kept from them. Karu was somewhere listening to music when it occurred to him that it was already day 9, and there was not much time left for the pranksters. He took a look at how many people were left. The number of deaths were more than he expected. It looked like there must have been a lot of clashes. He looked at the watch. Shibata had 10, Cha had 11. It seemed like both of them had their team members give them the watches. Cha was more impressive than he expected, and he knew he could count on him. To think he actually had more watches than Young Chul. Karu decided to start thinning out the numbers. He snapped his fingers and laughed away. Cha and So Young had fallen to the ground. Cha said, by the look of it, they had fallen all the way to the first floor. He wondered what Karu was playing at. They encountered Young Chul. Young Chul said he didn't know what was going on, but he was really glad to see Cha. In the meantime, Shibata's group also joined, and as soon as Aoki saw Young Chul, she began to rush for an attack, but his team members stopped her. So Young said to Cha that it looked like there had been a fight between the two. Young Chul asked if everyone fell down to the first floor, and Karu might be up to something again. Young Chul asked what was wrong with Aoki. Was it because her team members died, and if that was the case, he should be the one angry since all of them died as well. Aoki asked Shibata why he was holding back now that they found him. Shibata told her to look around since there were others there as well. They didn't know those two. They might not be talking and might be with Young Chul, or perhaps they were allies of Haoran who was not there, unless they could finish them in one blow. It was better to take action after making sense of the situation. The chance of revenge would come, so he asked Aoki to trust him and wait. Young Chul asked about revenge, and who were they trying to put out a show for since they met not long ago. Meanwhile, Cha and So Young were plotting something. Cha raised his hand and said he had a question. Young Chul said that wasn't the time or place for someone like Cha to start things. Cha asked about teaming up for the time being. Young Chul said that Shibata's group and him were fighting. Shibata asked Cha if he knew about Young Chul and his group's relationship. Then why was he suggesting a team up? Aoki said to not listen to that she would rather die than teaming up with Young Chul. Shibata told Aoki intensely that if the conversation was to be interrupted one more time, he would kill her. Cha continued and said them falling to the first floor must have been Karu's doing, so they should move on. What was important were their numbers. It looked like those were all the members left from the respective teams. Cha said that Haoran's team was still complete. He said that they saw his team on the second floor around 30 minutes ago. All 7 members were well and alive. Although they were not there, they must have fallen somewhere else on the floor. That was probably why Karu put them together like that, to let the minority team up before the final round. If they ignored that and fought amongst themselves, their chances of winning would greatly be reduced. Young Chul asked how Cha could be trusted. Cha said he had no proof, and even if he was lying, it was still better for them to work together for the time being. They didn't know what else Karu had in store for them. At times like that, the bigger the team, the better. Shibata agreed, but his team members were not certain. He told them if they didn't have any better ideas, then they should keep quiet and they could afford to be disadvantaged in terms of numbers. He said that Karu's rules were meaningless and anything could happen, although they didn't know the status of Hauran's team. It was clear that he would be hard to kill. Shibata asked Youngchul to join the team and he wouldn't force him, but he doubted his chances of survival were high if he was alone. Youngchul said that he was in too, however that would only be a temporary arrangement. He didn't trust Cha, but there was a chance that what he said would happen. Once it was clear that there were no changes in the situation, that team would immediately be dissolved. So-young thought a fight was going to break out, but Cha managed to stop them and made them into a team. She had always thought that, but his ability to adapt to circumstances was really something. The problem started then, and that team won't last long. After all, it was formed on a lie in the first place. When the balance would break, that was when victory would be decided. Shibata pointed towards Youngchul and said that he would take the lead. Youngchul said that two things were bothering him. First, he said not to order him around, and second, he didn't want to be in front. Shibata said he could understand the first, but what was the second? He said it was because he trusted Youngchul's skills that he was entrusted with that position. Youngchul said that he wanted him to stand in front of someone who wanted to kill him. Shibata said to not worry about Aoki since he made things clear. Although he didn't really want to be the leader, it made sense that he had the most say as his team had the most members. Shibata said if he didn't agree then they should vote. He asked everyone who wanted Youngchul to lead raise their hands. Everyone raised their hands. Youngchul notices Cha having fun and thought of a brat with nothing who only knew how to play tricks. He would make sure to teach him a lesson. Youngchul said that they would do it in shifts and he didn't want to be in front all the time. So-young hated Youngchul and hoped he got eaten by a monster along the way. Shibata Cha and So-young to take the rear. Cha said to So-young that they didn't care if they were behind them. While he was glad they were not on alert against them, it hurt his pride a little. Cha plan, what he told So-young when the other two parties were busy arguing, was he was going to ask them to team up. There was no way of predicting what would happen if they fought, and it would be dangerous for them. Cha said that they were the last ones to see Hauran. As the others won't have any information, they could use Hauran. So-young asked if the situation would go as planned, and even if it did, what would Cha do then? Cha asked her to trust him. They could stab them in the back when they got the chance. So-young thought, although they made it there, how long would it last? Aoki asked Shibata if he had a plan and how long they were going to keep it up. He didn't want those two behind them, and he didn't want to be with Youngchul even more. Shibata told him to keep his voice down if he didn't want to stir things up. Shibata said that he won't let him down and a good plan took time. Youngchul thought he was being forced into it, but he had no choice. He wondered if there was something about So-young and it seemed she knew something, but he wanted to forget and wanted to wait for the perfect timing. Cha said they took about 4 hours or so. They were going faster than they thought. Shibata said the only monsters were dwarves, and it looked like there wasn't anything out of the ordinary on the first floor. Youngchul said to say goodbye there, and ran away and told them to take care of the rest. So-young said she didn't understand how an idiot like that was getting protection from the black dragons. Cha said everyone had something they were good at. Aoki ran after Youngchul and Shibata tried to stop him. He asked how Aoki made it through like and just thought for a bit. Shibata said there was nothing much Youngchul could do on his own, and they should go up. They found Youngchul sitting in a corner. Aoki pointed out the layout of the floor had changed. If they would still be able to go between floors freely, there would be no reason to make all of them fall to the bottom floor. Shibata asked Youngchul to stop overreacting and get up since there was no time. They had to find 4 flights of stairs within 20 hours. Youngchul said he knew that, and told Shibata to not come any closer and he might kill him. So-young said that time was certainly tight, and they needed to find the new stairs to the 5th floor too. Cha said it would be nice if the difficulty level went down in proportion to the change in layout. Youngchul was getting frustrated, but he reminded himself it was not time yet, and when the opportunity arises, he would kill them all. Itu asked Shibata about Cha, and said they should be a little more careful of him than what Youngchul made him out to be. He was smarter than he thought, and something about him bothered him. Aoki agreed and said for some reason it felt like they were all dancing to his tune. Shibata said that they know how to use their heads after all. Still, they didn't have to pay him much mind for the time. Everyone would want to keep that team going at least until they found the stairs to the 5th floor, and the fact they were the strongest would not change. They could kill them all when the time came. All of them were proceeding fast thanks to Youngchul clearing the path. They found the stairs. Shibata taunted Youngchul that he did an amazing job which cost them 3 hours, and asked Cha if it was fun playing at the back. Cha said that they killed a couple of zombies, and even collected tokens when they had the chance. Youngchul said that was because they took longer than they had to. Cha said it was not like he was hoarding the loot all for himself, and they splitted the loot evenly. Cha thought that the tower's layout became simple, and they spotted ramen soldiers. Cha told So-young that they would take the lead since Youngchul looked tired. Youngchul said that he forgot it, and did he really thought he would be able to clear a path quickly through a ramen soldier. Cha said to trust him, and he would take care of them quickly, and he wanted to collect the tokens. Shibata said that he knew the path had gotten simpler, but wasn't Cha being a bit too relaxed? Cha said they would prove them right away. So-young asked Cha if he was sure if he wanted them to showcase their abilities. Cha said that was the time, but asked her to hold back a little and do it moderately. They both killed every ramen soldier in the path. Shibata knew it, and Youngchul was shook at what had happened, and when did Cha get so strong? Cha consumed a core, and Shibata asked him what he was doing, to which he said just getting a little snack and it won't take long. So-young asked Cha even if he got stronger, was he sure that he should be showing that to them? Cha told her not to worry, and it was all part of the show. The more he was being perceived as an unpredictable character, the better. Even if they looked like that, he was sure they would be pretty flustered on the inside. That made it easier for the two of them to plan things. Shibata thought that was a strange thing to do, to be eating those hearts. Itu asked if they should be letting Cha do that, and what if it was a consumption skill? Shibata said there was no way a first-year student would have that skill, and he won't take long, so they should let him be. Aoki asked to still tell Cha to hurry, and why he put Youngchul at the rear. Shibata told them to just keep their guard up, as he couldn't do anything for the time being. Shibata looked at Cha and thought he wanted to see what he was up to. Cha told Shibata that they took 4 hours, and that wasn't bad. Shibata said if it weren't for his weird snacks, they would have been faster. Cha said to cut him some slack, as he hadn't eaten anything since they were midway in. Cha thought even though that was because he had no need to eat anymore. All of his stats were at rank 6. Cores of rank 7 monsters won't do anything for him no more. During the first years, there was no one stronger than him. Even among the second years, it would be rare to find anyone who could beat his stats. Still, it would be difficult to deal with that lot. As the strength of the surviving people were already made known, all that was left was to make things even. In short, it was the perfect time to play mind games. Cha decided to stir up to his heart's content, and they would kill the rest to rise to the top. Shibata said at that point, there were a few things to think about. Although the reliability of his words were questionable, Karu said that the 5th floor would be open on day 10th. In other words, the stairs might not exist at the time. They didn't know when Haoran and his party might appear either. He said to keep those things in mind as they proceeded and spread out a little too. 7 hours later, the stairs were nowhere to be found. Shibata asked Itu if there were any paths left you searched. He said none. Although the area was large, the layout was much simpler than before. So-young asked Itu if he had a wayfinding skill. Itu said he just happened to have a sensitive nose. Cha asked if he could find people too. Itu said to a certain level. Shibata advised that it would be better to get some rest. Although hunting would be nice, everyone was tired and the gnolls were a hassle to deal with. They had 6 hours left, so they should keep watch in pairs and switch every 2 hours. He said to start first with Cha. So-young asked if he was sure and they might have missed something. They might get timed out with them stopping the search. Shibata said that Itu's judgment was 100% accurate when it came to searching, and there was nothing they could do but wait. Shibata asked everyone to decide their pairing themselves. Cha told So-young that it would be fine and she should get some rest. Youngchul said to not just stand, and the boss told them to rest, and there was nothing they could do about that. Aoki said that it was not an unfounded judgment, and Youngchul should watch his mouth. Itu said he and Youngchul would take the last shift, so the next shift would be Aoki and So-young. Aoki asked why Itu decided on his own. Youngchul said it was because he wanted to keep an eye on both Youngchul and So-young. Youngchul wondered if he had heard the name So-young before, and then he remembered. He asked her if she was in 6 pools, and it was said that she had a close relationship with Lee Jong-wan, the branch manager of 6 pools. Youngchul said that it was pretty famous among Koreans. Lee Jong-wan was trying to mess with their deputy's girl, and almost got his privates cut off. So-young attacked Youngchul. He said that he was just talking about the past. So-young suggested that he stop it, and if he was going to continue, she would open up another hole in his throat. Aoki was charging too, but was stopped by Itu. Aoki said there was nothing more to see, and he would help her kill him. Itu said there was no guarantee that wasn't an act, and what if they were trying to trick them to make their guard down? Itu remembered what he talked about with Shibata. He asked Itu about the odds of Haoran being alive. He said at most there was a 30% chance of that, and he didn't smell anything, and it was strange that they haven't met them yet. Shibata said it was just as he thought, and the two of them killed him. Itu said there was no way. Shibata said if they hadn't, there was no way they would be able to lie so calmly. They were confident about Haoran's current state. While the two of them were definitely strong, they couldn't rule out the possibility that they were in cahoots with Youngchul. Shibata told Itu to let him talk to Cha. Once they were sure they were opposing sides, that was when they would take action, and until then, he should keep Aoki under control. Itu thought even though he wondered if they were being overly cautious, it was worth doing so. He waited to see how the situation would end with Young Chul and So Young.
Don't forget to like and comment for the next part. Join our Discord for the name of the book and subscribe for more videos from us.